Hello, everybody, and welcome to Soulspeak. My name is Slurpaglurp, and we have an episode today centered around life after death and paranormal shenanigans. So a quick rundown of Soulspeak. Basically, it's a panel stream where we discuss everything from philosophical matters to media, depending on which branch of it. We have Soulspeak Light for the more lighthearted stuff. And today I am joined by a pretty crazy panel. I think we did a really good job putting this one together. I'll save the introductions for them. So we'll start with my top left, and that would be Sarah.
Hi everyone, I am SarahObscura. I stream games, I stream art, and I also do tarot streams once or twice a month, which are really, really cool. If you ever want to get a tarot reading, definitely keep an eye out for those. But yeah, are we also going to talk about our beliefs right now, or just about our channel?
Yes, I didn't have the itinerary on me. I didn't copy it.
Continue?
Yes. Tell us about any experience you have in the realm of the paranormal.
Oh, I have a lot. I have a lot, many paranormal experiences throughout my life. Yeah, I have some innate abilities as well that I've kind of learned where these abilities kind of came from over time. And yeah, I was raised Christian. I would consider myself Christian in a non-traditional sense, also Buddhist as well. But yeah, that's pretty much it, I guess. I mean, there's a lot more, but we'll get more into that as we're answering questions and stuff. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Thank you very much for that, Sarah. Next on my end is BigBlueD. Give us your name, religious, spiritual beliefs, and a brief overview of what you've done as relative to the topic.
I'm BigBlueD. And my beliefs, I'm registered as like Catholic or whatever, but I'm more spiritual. Like not hardcore like religion, just that I believe something created us. My experience, I mean, I've died twice, so like there's that. And I've had things happen in my house a lot.
I do have a weird box on my screen.
That's.
Thanks for pointing that out, Shane. Sorry.
What? Blue, was that all?
Again. God damn it.
Is that all, sir? And Blue's gone. Plarby, what about you, sir?
Yeah, I'm Plarby. Hi, sorry, this big black box.
Yeah, I was saying. Plarby's being haunted by a box right now, so he's got that going for him.
He does.
It's Pandora's box.
Yeah.
Open that shit up.
Anyway, hello.
Yeah, I'm back.
I'm Plarby. I am a Norse pagan, raised by a druid and a non-specific pagan, whose parents were all Christians, but that didn't stick. And, well, I like hunting ghosts, and I've had multiple experiences with that, as well as more experiences with like Norse stuff, but we can get into that later.
I like
May
that.
I ask what that device is that you're...
Oh, this is
The
an
EMF
EMF
reader.
detector.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's just a little startup thing, and if I actually bring it up to my camera, it shows it's giving off a slight
Magnetic field.
little bit of magnetic field, yeah.
Oh, cool.
Or maybe a camera's a ghost.
That's true. I've seen it.
I've got a story
camera's
about
possessed.
that, by the way. For later.
Magnus, you are next.
Oh, am I? Oh, no. Hello, everybody.
Yeah.
My name is MagnusMKI. I am a horror-themed content creator, and if you hadn't guessed by that, I would definitely probably be considered agnostic. I don't follow any of the traditional structured belief systems. Part of that is something we will get into later. But a lot of the fact that I consider myself agnostic has to do with my experiences and my laundry list of horrendous things involving both life, death, and whatever in between. Go on.
Fair enough. Thank you for that. Shiny Shoes, you are next, my friend.
Hey everybody, it's me, Shiny Shoes, and I was raised from a young age. First it was Southern Baptist, then that got a little crazy, so we became non-denominational Christians, and then I didn't like that as much, so I've kind of moved and got my own belief set now, much more in line with a atheist, but I do have some beliefs and thoughts on the afterlife and what happens after, and we'll talk about that later on, of course, in number 2.
Thank you for that, Shiny. And my name is Slurpaglurp. I have what?
Oh, I was going. I'm the Lord.
Thank you very much. I need an introduction as such. My name is Slurpaglurp, as Plarby so sensuously has pronounced unto ye.
Oh yeah.
My religious and spiritual beliefs are... I'd be considered a polytheistic Thelemite. So basically, for those of you that don't know, Thelema, I'm not even sure if that's how you pronounce it. There's a lot of contention in the community about proper pronunciation of that word. But anyway, it's sort of like a marriage of Western and Eastern mystical traditions. You could very loosely maybe consider it sort of like Buddhism meets theistic Luciferianism. It's fun times, but we won't get into that right this second. Aside from that, I don't have much experience actually like actively pursuing the paranormal. I've tried my hand at rituals before and I've got some interesting results. Not 100% sure what to make of them, and I often find myself struggling between like, is this really supernatural stuff that I don't quite grasp, or is my mind playing tricks on me? So this sort of topic is always fascinating to me. Now, before we move on, I'd like to say a few things. One, I squished Sarah's beautiful logo. It's my fault, and I'm sorry, everybody. I squished it a little bit. I try to make it fit to the confines of what I have to work with on my fun laptop, and I done bad. But more importantly, what I want you guys to know is we did make a few alterations for Soulspeak. It's different than my standard streams. As you can see, the rules are there, and of course, if you ever want to drop any of these awesome folk who have joined me today a follow, which I implore everybody to do at the moment, there's the links. You just hit !panel and you'll get the full rundown. Alright, so without further ado, we will move on. That's how you pronounce it. I learned it. We are going to move on to life after death. So we're just going to start. Life after death. Is it real? Oh, that's another important thing. I almost forgot. So everyone in chat, we do encourage you to ask questions, share your opinions and stuff. We'll try to sort of address it throughout, but we will have designated chat breaks also after each section. So say what you will in chat, and I guess maybe like copy some of your real pressing stuff in case we miss it until the chat break. Alright, so life after death. Is it a thing? And if so, what happens? Does anyone want to start? Magnus got his fingers up.
First off, I want to point out that I heard life after death from you, and immediately my thoughts were, does it exist? I don't believe so. I don't believe life after death was going to happen. Life after death, however, I have very, very big opinions on. Personally, from my personal experiences, I want to say yes, but I don't know how much of it is going to truly be sentience. Like, I don't know if we're going to just truly be ourselves here, or not just echoes of actions of the past. it's a very interesting dynamic in my personal experience because I've seen things that lead towards both, and personally, it's just one of those things that I'm willing to go ahead and believe either side of that coin. I'm willing to go ahead and believe in people passing on and moving happily onto something else, be it reincarnation or an afterlife. And at the same time, I'm also absolutely willing to believe that people get stuck here if they maybe even haven't done things well enough to get. As if there's either some sort of emotional, physical scar on what they've done, or, if you want to play the karma credit system, maybe they didn't have enough karma credits to go ahead and move on to the next stage. But yeah, I've seen things, glorious things you wouldn't believe in my time. I'm not going to do the entire Blade Runner quote like I intended to.
I get it.
But, however, I believe there's something there. What it is, still on the fence about. As for the part of your other itinerary for there, the death experiences part, I'm really excited to hear what Big Blue has to say, because I too have been legally dead twice. However, I don't know what happened for Blue, because mine were just legally dead on paper while I was still conscious, and those are really awkward when the person goes ahead and is like checking your pulse and doing full-on stethoscope to the heart, and like, we've lost them. You're like, really? And then they go, ah! And then you have to deal with the paranoid paramedic, because for my two examples, when I was in 4th grade, I went to a school that had another school that had like K through 12 fully on that bus. So I used to get bullied as a 4th grader, I got bullied by a high school student, and he used to go ahead and shove my head back and forth between the seats. And one time he missed, and I cracked my skull open on a bolt on the side of the bus.
Oh boy.
And I started bleeding at 2:30 in the afternoon. And then there's a specific hospital in Jersey I only would send my worst enemies to, because they finally got a chance to take an actual look at me after Jeopardy. So that's about 7:30 at night. And I remember that very vividly because I was woozy in the waiting area answering the final Jeopardy question before they brought me.
Jeopardy's pretty important.
And while I was still conscious after I'd been bleeding from the head for 5 hours, they then went to go take my vitals and could not find a discernible pulse while I was awake. That was fun. The other time, was a car accident. I'd been impaled. There was massive traumatic blood loss. So that happens. I have my scars for my impalement. I don't show them off because I have to take my shirt off in Twitch terms of service. But
you can send them my DMs, please.
That time, however, was probably one of the more entertaining ones for me. I had my eyes closed because it hurt like shit. I had been impaled. And they're like, I don't think he's live. I think we lost this one. I'm like, really? I hope you're not talking about me. And then streaming started. And
oh my god.
Magnus was streaming with
and then it's just one of
bleeding.
those, like, they're like, are you okay? And I'm like, I think something really hurts. Yeah, we have to bring you to the hospital to get rid of this rod through you. That'd do it. I think my rod hurts. Is that what we say? Does my rod hurt?
Oh my
That
god.
But
is
on
what
paper,
we say.
I was legally dead. Like, no discernible pulse, stethoscope, actual vitals. I think when they got me to the hospital, stabilized everything, and patched me up, for the first hour, my actual blood pressure reading was like 42/14. And I'm just sitting there and I'm like, that's legally dead. Awesome. Impaled in the head? God no, Joe G. I had my skull cracked open. I had my actual side of my body impaled. It missed all major organs. Apparently it missed my lung by that much. It was fun. It was fun, let me tell you.
That's pretty intense.
How long I went without a pulse when awake? I wouldn't be able to tell you the first time because, first off, I was in 4th grade. Second of all, we only noticed when I went into the actual ER to get looked at. Who knows? But I'm gonna stop going on about this and let other people talk.
Thank you for
I've
sharing
never-
that, Magnus.
no
We
problem.
got Shiny talking and Sarah with her hand raised. Either you want.
She followed the rules. The hands go up.
It's not.
All right. So life after death. I very, very firmly believe in reincarnation. I have re-experienced past life memories before as a kid growing up, and I didn't realize that they were past life memories until I met people who were able to actually look into my past lives, and they basically re-described these dreams that I had, and these dreams, they felt very real. Some of them were kind of traumatic and painful, and I would actually feel like physical pain while experiencing these. Yeah, very very intense. Yeah, I firmly believe in reincarnation. I think that a lot of people are reincarnated, and sometimes you might, if you feel like you're re-experiencing something over and over again, it might be a lesson that you're not learning. It might be a lesson that you didn't learn in the previous life, and so you're trying to learn it in this life, and things like that. And yeah, I do also believe that souls can be like lost and kind of stuck on this plane for a number of reasons. It could be grudges, it could be just like being unable to let go of something. I also have friends, because I live in Taiwan, I have some friends here that are Buddhist, and their third eye is completely open. They communicate directly with the gods, and they help people who are spiritually oppressed. And interesting thing that my friend told me is that if someone dies earlier than they're supposed to die, chances are that their soul will be stuck here until that that remaining time is up. So yeah, that's also something to consider.
What
But
de-
yeah.
What determines that time?
Like basically you have a set time, like when your time is up. So for whatever reason that you
Oh,
die,
okay. The difference
yeah,
of when you were supposed to die to when you actually died.
yeah. So
Okay.
yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah. So if you do something to end it a bit earlier than it's supposed to be, then yeah, your soul might end up being stuck here for a while until that time is up, because you were supposed to be here for that period of time, for for that reason, for like the lessons that you need to learn. So if you sabotage that, well, yeah, that's just what I was told, which I thought was very interesting, very, very interesting. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it for now. I'll let someone else share on this.
For your reincarnation, does that is there like a goal to that, or does it just keep occurring?
I can't really speak for everybody else, but for me, I basically have just been going through a lot of soul growth through my different lives. I'm a reincarnated witch. I have been a witch for many different lives, and I've done a lot of good things, and I've done some bad things too, and I had to pay the karma for that as well, especially in my life before this one, because my life before this one was really fucked up, and that's where all of my super traumatic dreams came from, was from that life. And also yeah, I also had to resolve some things in this life that were actually from previous lives before. So for me, it's been just a lot of soul growth, and just fixing up the mistakes that I made and learning from them, and just becoming a better person. But there can be someone who, for example, someone who maybe has struggled with poverty for many lives, and maybe it's because Maybe it's because of the way that they've treated people. Maybe they've like betrayed a lot of people or something like that, or some other kind of attitude that they have about money that's very unhealthy. That could be the result of that. And so that's, something that they're trying to work through in this life. I'm just throwing that out as an example, but it can be different for everybody. But yeah, those are my thoughts.
Thank you for that. I would like to pose a question before moving on to Shiny Shoes. For anyone here who does believe in reincarnation, a quick yes or no. Is reincarnation Earth-centric? When you get reincarnated, does it have to be of an earthly variety of species?
So far, yes.
So far,
As far as I know.
Fair enough. We got Sarah with her hand raised.
I'm going to say no. It doesn't necessarily mean Earth-centric. You could be from another planet. You could be from a completely different planet. You could be a completely different species. And then maybe for some reason you reincarnated on this planet. I actually know a couple people who are from a different planet before, and in a previous life, and now they're just living here on Earth. It doesn't mean that they're like, it's not like Men in Black where, oh, they're aliens living on Earth, but it's just that's where their soul originated from.
Don't let her lie to you. I wish I had the X-Files music cue.
I gotta put on my other suit real quick. Hold on.
For me personally, though, this might, some people might think, oh my god, like, this is fucking crazy, but I was a fairy in a previous life, in my 7th life.
Yeah,
I was a fairy before.
Fairies!
Yeah, a lot of people say, oh, I can see that. I have a little bit of a troll side to me that's very, very fey.
I thought you meant like troll. Like, not the bus.
No.
Clarify here.
No, because fairies can be tricksters. They can be little tricksters.
This is true.
So yeah, I have a little bit of that. You don't see it very often, but every once in a while,
I sees it. Thank you for that, Sarah. Does anyone else want to weigh in there?
Okay. I'm in with reincarnation. I think that's very likely as to what my belief kind of goes toward. I'm less so on that end of like, it happens to resolve things and stuff like that. I think I go more into the just that, hey, you gain experiences from this one, you go into the next one. And the only reason why I lean towards that is because it's hard for me to believe in a heaven or hell. It's difficult for me to think like all this consciousness that you have just stops once you die. And just think of the amount of times you've been somewhere and you know something, but you don't know how you know it.
I'm a genius.
Like, well, yeah, of course, there's that. But, like, have you ever just been like, somebody asks you a question, you answer, and they're like, how did you know that? And you're like, I don't know. Maybe you picked it up subconsciously, but maybe, like she was talking about, maybe these past experiences are coming down. Or have you ever met someone, you're like, wow, I have an instant connection with this person. I don't even know who the heck they are. So things like that would lead me to fall into that reincarnation being much more likely in my belief system for it.
And how do you feel? Is it limited? Is there an end to the reincarnation, or is it eternal?
I would love to think like there's some kind of karma play into it. As long as you continuously be a good person, it's gonna keep happening. But I don't have an answer to that. Maybe it ends, but as far as I know, as long as we keep going. Now it is interesting. You talk about like, could it be on another planet? Possibly. Like the solar system is way too big for there not to be more people out there than us. And if my belief system would fall into saying, hey, we're reincarnated, well, technically wouldn't that work for them as well? So I'd go with yeah.
Hell yeah. All right. Thank you for that, Shiny. Big Blue or Plarby?
Okay, so like the whole reincarnation thing, I have very mixed kind of feelings on. There have been very strong feelings of deja vu for me, Like, I swear, there's this house on my neighborhood every time I walk by, and I say it to, like, my father every time if he's with me. I say, I have vivid memories of growing up, like, in this house, playing on the driveway, and, like, being on, like, one of those, like, toy tricycles or whatever. But I've never once set foot on the house or on that property, so I don't know where I'm getting that from. But on the other hand, both times that I died, there was absolutely nothing. So, like, I died and it was just black, and it was like I woke up from being, just sleeping. Like, they were like, I guess they shocked me back or whatever, got me back to life. But, like, in the time that I was dead, nothing. So,
Jeez.
don't know. I don't know. And like, I've seen people, I've actually seen blind kids who were blind their entire lives right before their last breath describe colors for the first time, seeing colors. So I'm all over the place with it. I'm open-minded. I think it could exist for sure,
That's
but I
fair.
have no solid stance.
But you do leave room for the possibility.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
100%. I mean, like I said, how do I explain the house I've never been to? Don't know the people there, but I have memories of, like, playing there.
Fair enough.
So,
Wow.
I'm just saying, there are too many times where you see something, you're like, have you ever gone in a friend's house and, like, you just walk, you know where you're going? You're like, boop, 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 right up the steps to their room or wherever you're going. Like, it makes no sense sometimes how you know things. You just do.
yeah.
Or sometimes you meet someone and you just feel like you already know them.
Yeah, that's
like
what I was.
meeting for the first time. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I said. Like, you meet someone, you're like, I have known this person forever, but I've only been talking to him for 10 minutes.
Okay, so I did put deja vu in another section, but like I said, this panel is looser in structure than most. I know a lot of this stuff is going to interconnect anyway.
Yeah.
I'm not convinced that that sort of phenomenon is related directly to life after death, because I think we need to consider things like a universal unconscious mind, just general connectivity with the world around us, on even through, like, different dimensional planes, but in the same sort of space. But all right, not right now for that. Kind of.
Listen, I got something when you talk about interdimensional planes, so you let me know where you talk about that.
I'm happy to hear it.
Soon.
Plarby, do you got anything for us?
Yeah. So we're still on the reincarnation stuff, right?
Well,
Yep.
life after death.
After
It doesn't have to
Life
be.
after death. Okay. Well, for life after death, for my belief, you either end up on 3 different places, because it's Norse. Obviously, one of the big ones, Valhalla, which is Odin's chosen warriors for when Ragnarok happens. Then you've got Folkvanger, which is the Vanir side, which is like Freya, not to be confused with Frigg, who is Odin's wife. They're 2 kind of the same side, but they still butt heads kind of gods. It's weird. It's a weird pantheon, but there's enough fun there. Or if you're not a warrior and you're not chosen or whatever, you go to Helheim, which is overseen by Hel, who is the goddess of the dead. And it's described as Earth, but misty. Just everything is misty and
London.
more mountainous.
Oh,
Silent.
mountains.
There
Never
is
mind.
no... Well, for like the life after death, there is no real punishment system, because life is punishment enough. Because you got your own trials and tribulations you go through here. As far as reincarnation, yes, that is a thing. Don't really know how that's supposed to work with those big 3, because all the Norse stuff that was written down was more word of mouth until some Christian guy went over there and took major interest in it and wrote everything down that he could get his ears on. And then again, it was a little embellished to reflect. It's like, oh, hey, we also got this sort of little thing going on here. We also have this trait. But, that's what happens with different belief systems and bias. But, yeah. And as for, as everyone has mentioned something about reincarnations, I want to say I've had at least 3 different lives. One of them may be interdimensional sort of thing, where it, where...
Shiny's eyes, yeah.
What's
Yeah.
I don't want to go into too much detail because I don't have much detail, but the science lab in Atlantis was one of them that I think is a thing in my head. I also remember the layout of a school that I never went to.
On this planet.
On this planet, in this timeline that actually exists.
Oh.
Do you have any
Like,
idea, when that was?
Early 90s. It was definitely like early 90s. It's like, okay, I was already alive, so my idea is also that time isn't as linear as we think.
Okay.
I'm kind of curious. Where does reincarnation fall into the 3 destinations?
I'm not sure. Maybe while we're waiting for Ragnarok, it's like, hey, you know what? Go take a break. If you want to go take another spin on another life, go ahead.
That's interesting.
All we know is our deaths are written by the Norns, or the Fates, as it were.
And
it's like, hey, this is how this person's gonna die, and when we just don't get to know it.
Boo. Now, as a ghost hunter, do you have any insights from that into why ghosts would be here? When you have reincarnation, you have these 3 other afterlives. What are ghosts doing on this plane?
Well, the fun thing about the Nordic belief is that it's modular. It's like, oh, hey, your area thinks this. That could be possible. Like, as Sarah was saying, it's like, they were saying that if they die a little too early, the remaining time is spent out. But it could be that. It could also be like they're still clinging on to something, like they don't really want to go just yet, and their willpower is that strong. Could be like at a big emotional point in their life was recorded somehow in that one spot that they keep, reappearing in. Like, especially down in Louisiana. I've got a story for Louisiana later. But, yeah.
Thank you for... I agree. Thank you for sharing, Plarby. I'll go real quick. So, I basically believe... Don't mock my noises. I basically believe in limited reincarnation, which I think is best exemplified with, say, visualizing a clear ball. And every life you live, every bit of knowledge and experience is a little white speck that goes into this clear ball, and once it's filled up, you then ascend. You achieve apotheosis. So once we live, I don't know how many lives, however many lives it takes to learn and experience everything we need to on our sort of general frequency range. I'm not going to say like a single frequency range, but once we fill that ball up, then we become what we now consider to be gods. What we do after that, I have no idea. I don't know what the will or desires of what we believe to be gods are. But I also think there's a lot of stuff in between, and maybe the more we fill that ball, like, you could go from being a sort of a human, which I personally feel is probably pretty low on the scale of spiritual evolution. Then you have like ascended beings in the middle, and then godhood. And I think that's what's helped me cope with death a lot. I'm sure I'm not alone in losing like friends and family and stuff. The idea that I'll be able to see everybody again to some capacity has been very uplifting. But it feels right too. I know I'm not just like believing this because, oh no, I don't want to picture myself not seeing anyone ever again. There's more to it that I can't quite put my finger on. I've definitely had instances of deja vu, not not even trying to like save it for the next section. I can't remember these specific instances. I just know that I've had these feelings before. There's more shit out there, but we're gonna get into that with as the show moves on. So, with the next in here is, does this life have an impact on the afterlife? How so? I think from what the majority of you shared, it seems like you would say your actions in life do have an impact. I would like to wrap up what I'm saying while segueing into this by saying my beliefs with this idea of experiences and knowledge collecting. Doing bad stuff is bad. It's going to make one uncomfortable living their life ultimately, provided they're not like an utter sociopath. But at the same time, it can grant someone the knowledge and experience they need to add to that ball. So like it going through shitty times or even doing shitty things, as unfortunate as it may seem, I think I gotta be like fair here, it could possibly, in the scheme of things, advance your sort of evolutionary path. To what extent, I don't know. I'm still trying to suss some of that out. So what do you guys think?
So, like, I'm not like big on like, hey, what happens in this life affects the next, but it's hard for me to discern the two, like a consciousness or a soul. So I think that like reincarnation, yes, that happens, but I don't know whether to say it's a consciousness or a soul that moves on. But I think there are some things that you do, like in the life that you're in now, there's some things that are so messed up that I feel they can stain your soul, stain the person you are. Like you are just it's something hard to come back from. And if I'm believing that it's soul moving from this point to the next point, what would make that, how would you get that off of whatever consciousness you're being? So I'm hoping that it's a consciousness that moves from being to being to being as it goes on, because if it's soul, it's hard to think that you'll have, maybe you're 15 down the line and number 14 you do something so horrible that the rest of your line is you trying to rid yourself of whatever happened there,
Which might be impossible.
Yeah, because I mean there's some bad things that you could do, and maybe it takes multiple lifetimes to come back from that. So
Sarah?
I just want to comment on that. I can say from personal experience that yeah, you can actually come back from doing stuff. Because I'm not going to get into too much details about what I did before as a witch, but basically because a lot of us were getting killed, I took a darker turn to retaliate. And yeah, I made a pact, and I had to break that pact in this life. And like I said, I paid the karma for the stuff that I did, but I was able to come out of it and learn from all of that, learn from the harm that I did to others, and also learn from the harm that was brought onto me. So this life is kind of a clean slate for me, basically. Like I'm basically tying up some loose ends and giving myself a fresh start so I can put myself on a better path.
Does the stuff that happened previously, because I mean you seem way more in tune with what has happened previously with that reincarnation, so does the stuff that happened previously, does that still, I'm not saying like stain your soul or whatever, but like does that still affect you? Do you still feel the repercussions for that happening?
I would say no. There might be some issues with certain people because of past life ties. There might be certain underlying issues, like personal issues within myself, that I'm working through. But overall, it's not like it's something that's it's not like this impossible mountain that I can't climb over. Like, I'm working through all of it quite effectively. So it's not like, oh, it's there with you forever. Like, it is in your Akashic record. The Akashic record is the record of the entire journey of your soul. So it is in the Akashic record, but it's not like, oh, you did this, this is tainting you forever and ever. There's no way you can get out of it. It is possible to work through those things and put yourself back on a higher path.
What is the process to work through that? What is it? Just making amends? Yeah, make amends with those in the past, or I'm asking because I was curious about it. Like,
yeah, I can't really speak for like everybody, but I can say, at least from my own personal experience, it's been an interesting journey. I have met some people that I've had to clear some things up with them, and I am extremely self-aware, like very, very, very self-aware. Like, whatever thoughts run through my head, I'm extremely aware of it. And because some people they just like think, they're just thinking and they're not really stopping themselves and being like, okay, wait, why am I thinking these thoughts? I'm the kind of person that's constantly like observing my own thoughts. So that has helped me tremendously working through my own personal issues. So I've had to do a lot of shadow work and a lot of self-healing. I didn't get a ton of help growing up. I've basically been just kind of feeling my way through the dark and just working with what I could, basically. But the thing is, I think the key thing is being self-aware and being willing to be honest with yourself and really like taking the time to examine these things and be like realistic about it. But yeah, I don't know. I hope that gives you some insight.
That it does. Thanks for that, Magnus.
I'm gonna kind of piggyback off of what Sarah was saying. Shiny, I honestly think part of the reason that we do find some remnants of people from their past lives is because of things that they have done that are kind of things that need to be addressed or worked through, and it ties back into their concept of people still spending the time that they had here throughout the rest of it stuck here. I was actually going to wait for the next section because there was the whole comment on ghosts for that one. But just out of curiosity, out of the rest of the panel here, how many of you have dealt with either cursed or possessed seeming objects? Because okay, cool, good. So this isn't going to be too out of the whack for any of you. You want me to just segue it, Slurp, or you want me to wait for that, 10 minutes from now? Because it ties into the entirety of your question of, do the actions of this life have some sort of debt or payment required for things beyond it? But it also ties into ghosts.
If communicating with the dead or ghosts? Just say it. It doesn't matter. We're good. Do it up.
I mean, when you had the last panel and I was on here and I went on my big rant about mental health, I made it very clear that the reason about that is from previous experiences where I've lost people due to forced positivity. I made it very, very quick comment about it, but the first serious relationship I was ever in ended up with that person being told to go ahead and kind of bear all those emotions on themselves, and you can guess what happened with her. Okay. When she was buried with a necklace I gave her, a very specific necklace that I had bought, and then it was in my room a week, and it stuck with me until I was about 22 when I actually gave it to someone else. It was never a thing of negativity. In fact, it was actually always a thing of positivity. And the problem was that it was positive as long as I was not actively interested in anyone else. Anytime that there was any sort of attraction or anything, it was almost as if this item that was very specifically linked to someone who I had been romantically involved with was almost jealous, and things would suddenly go wrong and things would go bad. However, anything outside of that was always fine and worked out for the best. Like, being fine when impaled.
Oh boy.
So eventually it got to the point where, I decided to go ahead and look into and address this entire of what this was. And it was very clearly like, gave it to someone who had no idea what it was or what it was linked to. And they literally were like, this object carries the weight and burden of an emotional tragedy, but not yours. And it was like, oh, yeah, no, I get that.
Wow.
And they're like, the thing you need to do with this, though, is you're going to meet someone. Not in the type of context that you're immediately thinking when I say this, but they need this more than you do. They need the comfort and the hope that this can give them. And as I was in college, I actually tried to during the stream, but similar to Sarah, he's in a completely different time zone now because he lives in New Zealand. And when we were in college together, there was a thing involving relationships that involved the two of us as well as other people that also featured a tragedy. And I just knew, I'm like, this is who's supposed to get this necklace. This is exactly who this is supposed to go to. Ever since then, he wears it to this day, and he has literally lived. To give you an idea, you just
cut out
a little bit.
Of course I did. Hello, technological interference.
Ever since he got the necklace?
Ever since he got the necklace, he's been living out his dreams quite literally. He went from a disenfranchised biology major to being one of the people that literally gives the tours when you visit his favorite movie franchises, old sets, Lord of the Rings, and plays professional disc golf with enough skill to make a living on.
Heck
Wow.
yeah.
Perpetually single, but living out his dreams. And it's just one of those things where it's like, sure, I went ahead and continued, and it seems like we helped end this burden by putting through whatever had happened by giving this necklace to this other friend of mine. But it still came at a tragic cost and an emotional burden to carry till that. So the actions of this life definitely affected what would happen beyond it, and left some sort of remnant of some sort of, like I said, echo or active, impact. But it definitely had some sort of weight to it, and I can't say whether or not it essentially kept the person who made that tragic choice rooted here until that time. I don't know what effect it had on them beyond.
That does bring up a lot of interesting questions, namely, like, why is it bad in one person's hands and good in another's? Especially,
it was never bad to me unless I was interested romantically in someone
that's
else.
a thing.
Well, that's the whole thing. It was. Think about it this way: would your ex, who's purposely stuck to you, be really happy watching you get interested in someone else? It depends on how old they were. Now I'm going to ask you, is a 13-year-old girl not going to be jealous?
What I get that. What I'm saying is, though, like, how is giving it to someone else, like, good for the spirit
Because I'm
or the
pretty
person?
sure that he has no interest in anyone else at all. Ever.
Oh, okay. I missed that. I overlooked that.
He's a perpetually single kind of guy now. After everything that happened in college, he was just like, no. And to be honest, he seems happier than he's ever been doing his own thing by himself.
Huh.
That's
Pretty
so
dope.
interesting.
It honestly, it still boggles the mind. I'm really glad that I stayed in touch with him.
And it still has that, like, kind of good luck residue on it?
upswing,
Okay.
Like, he's literally playing his favorite joke sport professionally and giving tours of his favorite film.
I thought he was just good at it. I don't know. That's
I mean,
that's
He
dope
wasn't
though.
that good in college.
Fair enough.
Note to self, get that necklace.
It's my frisbee golf. I gotta go.
All right, I think we might have went on a little tangent here. We're
What else
talking.
is new? It's
Do your actions in life impact what happens when you die? Blue, you got anything for us?
I believe that absolutely one way or the other. Like even if we don't transfer ourselves consciously, like if we don't, go to heaven or if we're not reincarnated, whatever, our bodies are still made of energy no matter what, and there's different kinds of energy, positive and negative. And I feel like if you live a negative life, your energy is going to turn negative. And when you die, that negative energy goes somewhere. And I think it may not necessarily impact you, but wherever that energy goes, whether it goes to another person or makes another person or goes into the atmosphere, whatever, I feel like the positive or negative energy can, have an impact. And if we do go somewhere, then yeah, I would absolutely believe that our actions as a person would define our afterlife a bit. In some way, it would be weird not to, because it's our life, so it has impact.
I feels that. All right, thank you for that. Talking to the dead. Woo! I should have started this when we had more time for the topic. We might have to extend it a bit. All right, who wants to go first? I heard Sarah making noises and raising her hand. That's a toggle.
Ladies first.
That's two. Yeah, that's two.
I have a lot of stories. Okay.
So Sarah doesn't believe that it's possible. We've gathered
All right.
that.
Wait,
just,
what?
I'm just kidding. I'm just...
I have a lot of stories. Okay, this one isn't so much communicating, but this is definitely like I guess clairvoyance. I guess that would be the right term for it.
Who's Claire?
But this was when I was staying at my parents' house, and my cousin, he was also staying at my parents' house for like a couple months. And his father had passed away a few years ago, and it had taken a very long time for him to finally receive some personal items that like belonged to his dad. And so he got it while he was staying at my parents' house, and it was a wallet and a watch, and that's what he had on him like all the time. So he like kept it in a drawer in like the downstairs area, and when he went to leave, he kind of forgot it. And it was after he left, there's some weird shit going on. Someone was in the kitchen one night and literally heard and could like feel like footsteps behind them. And for me, like, this was really crazy. I was like, I was taking a shower, and suddenly I just went into a trance, and that's never happened to me before. Like previously, it was very weird. Like I just started to zone out, and I was going into a trance, and my vision started to turn red. It was like someone like turned the light red, basically. Like that's what it looked like. And then I could hear an ambulance, and it wasn't like it was outside the house. It was like I was right there and the ambulance was coming, and it was just like getting closer and closer and closer. And then all of a sudden there was this flash, and then I snapped out of it, and I was like, what the heck was that? Yeah, apparently he had died of a heart attack. So I don't know. After we sent the stuff to my cousin, like those things stopped happening. But I was like, yeah, please take these. Like, please take them. All right. Like, I don't want to have any more of these experiences. Another story, I'll just share one more. This was in Taiwan, and in Taiwan we have a thing called the Ghost Festival, and it's for a whole month. And they believe that during this time, it's kind of similar to Halloween, like the traditional beliefs behind Halloween, when the gates are open and the dead are free to walk around. But for here, it's for a whole month. And so people will put out offerings, and they'll have, like, temples will do performances, and like nobody can sit in the front rows because those are reserved for the dead to sit and watch and be entertained and things like that. So this was kind of nearing the end of the whole like ghost month, and what happened was I was like just about to like fall asleep, and suddenly I heard like this young girl was laughing. And I know first thing that comes to your mind is like some horror film, but it didn't feel that way. Like, it was honestly, it was very pure. It's just very pure and lighthearted. Like she was just laughing, like she was playing. And so I said in my mind, I was like, who are you? And I didn't expect to hear a response, but a few seconds later, she actually replied. She said, my name is Rika. And so I asked, like, what do you want? And I waited a few more seconds, and she said, I'm trying to find home. And then after that, I could feel like her presence just disappeared, and like she was gone. But of course, I immediately like put up protections just in case, but I also prayed that like an angel would kind of guide her to where she needed to go. But yeah, I think she was maybe like between like 7 to 11 years old, and she spoke English, but she had an accent. And so the next day I looked up the name Rika. So I was like wondering where did this name come from, and I found that in Japanese it means the scent of home, which was very interesting. But yeah, I would say that's probably my most positive experience interacting with, those who passed away. But yeah, that's my story.
Thank you for sharing that, Sarah. Johnny, making noises.
I have one that happened to me. Well, I have two. One's a joke, though.
My face.
No, it's not bad. So the one that's messed with my wife, she really is heavily believe into like ghosts and stuff like that, and I'm with her, I believe, but I do like to do a lot of things at her expense. So she bought this scale from a flea market, a really old scale, and she brought it home. And when she brought it in, she started asking me questions. She's like, do you think that items can be haunted? And I was like, absolutely, they absolutely can. So we go into this whole conversation about it, and she's like, I don't know, I just bought this really old scale. And I was like, oh, do you think it's haunted? She's like, no, that's silly. So for an entire month, every day I would get up in the morning and I would move the scale to a different part of the house. And I did that for a month straight, every single day. And I came home one day, and she's hiding in the room, like, what's wrong? She's like, the scale's been moving and stuff around the house.
Johnny!
And I was like, that's me. You got me. It was easy because we both believe in it, and literally, like, she was so scared, and it was perfect. But my actual experience with it, so my great grandmother, I was very young when she passed. So I remember, I want to say I was 4 or 5 when she passed, and she was on hospice. So she lived with us in this little place that we lived at, basically, when I was way younger. And she had a routine. So she was really old, and she would get up at 3 in the morning. I don't know why people get up at 3 in the morning, but she would get up at 3 in the morning. You had to go to work for something. All right, Magnus. She would get up. She would go to the kitchen. She'd make herself a pot of coffee. she would drink coffee on the back porch, basically. And she did this over and over again until basically she passed. So what happened in the house that we lived in, so after we passed and a couple weeks after that, at 3 a.m, you would smell coffee. And my grandma at the time was just like, oh, that's just your great grandma, and basically like said she'd call her, basically her code name was Beans, because she didn't want to scare my 2 younger brothers. Grandma Beans. So, well, what happened is the door kept coming open, the back door. So the back door would be left open in the middle of the night, and my grandpa, he was like, we can't keep leaving the back door open in the middle of the night. He's like, this thing just keeps popping open. I don't understand. So he installed a lock on it, one of those chain locks, basically. So he installs the chain lock. We go to bed. At about 3:15, you hear bing, like this just loud, like just metal clanking. And literally, we all go into the kitchen because it wakes all of us up. And the damn door's open, the lock's busted. And we just kind of look at him, and he looks at us, and he's just like, kind of shakes his head, and he shuts the door, and he's just like, we're not going to talk about this. This didn't happen. And he just walks back into his room. He just walks back into his room and goes to bed. And I was just like, and I remember, I was pretty young, and I was looking at my grandma, and I was like, yo, Grandma Beans does not like that door locked. I was like, we need to not do that. So that's, but a part of that, eventually, unfortunately, that house burned down and everything. But it's crazy that I can even talk to my mom and my aunt about why it always smelled like coffee at 3 a.m. in that house. It would wake you up out of your sleep, and nobody's making coffee. Nope.
But you didn't talk to anybody though.
No.
Okay.
No, but only kind of. Oh, I guess you're right. That does kind of go into no communication. I guess you're right.
No, I was just wondering. I wasn't trying to make a point or anything.
Yeah.
I don't know if your grandma wanted some Folgers or something.
I don't know. Maybe
Folgers.
I don't know what they. Is it called an echo or something like that? Just the same thing happening over and over again.
That's
residual haunt.
Residual haunt. Yeah.
That's.
Okay, I don't know.
Okay, so with excluding general ghost stories, because we are pressed for time on this specific topic. Blue, Plarby, also Blue, if you'd like to share your 2 near-death experiences.
And I froze. Hold on.
We can see you. You're still going.
I'm good now. I'm good.
Okay.
So when I was going through treatment, I had a roommate that I was super close to. She was actually South African, and we were very, very close. And her prognosis was she just wasn't going to make it. And on the way home from one of these trips into the hospital, she basically appeared right next to me and told me, I have to go, don't be sad, it's okay. And she gave me a kiss on the forehead, and I started to lose it. I was crying, bawling. Mom's like, what's wrong? And I told her, Stacy died. She's gone. She's not here anymore. And she looked at the time, and it was 11:43 in the morning. And when we got home, my father was waiting outside of the house. And he's like, I have to tell you something. And she's like, Stacy died? And he's like, yeah, at 11:43. So, I would say that's pretty direct, communication.
Yeah?
And my man's is still skeptical about the afterlife. This is the kind of stubbornness I gotta deal with BigBlueD over here. A ghost kissed him on the forehead, and he's like, look, bitch.
I'm not skeptical about, whether or not we can keep existing in some way. I'm skeptical about some of the quote-unquote older stories, like heaven and hell. Those are the things I'm skeptical of.
Fair enough.
Yo, I'm with you.
Fair enough.
I'm with you on that, Blue.
Alright. Well, thank you for clarifying that. And your near-death experiences, Blue?
They were death experiences.
Oh,
Yeah, no.
Well...
This is a little different from me being awake while...
I've been read my last rites at least probably 6 times. I've died been like officially coded like twice. But like, both times, like I said before, both times I died, there was nothing. I didn't see a white light. I didn't see, friends or relatives that had passed before.
Yeah.
It was like the closest I could describe it was when you first wake up from sleeping all night.
Sorry, my cat.
You're like groggy. You're like, oh, was I asleep? Meanwhile, everyone's like in a panic round, like, oh my god, he's like, thank God.
What was the nature of your dying?
Oh, cancer, pesky shit.
What?
Yeah.
Yes.
Blur!
It's okay, it's yeah.
I gotta say, it almost sounds like you passed away, and then they were like, "Should we? No, let him be. He's coming back in like 2 minutes. Don't even bother sending the light. Like it's gonna cost us more in spectral electricity to turn the light on to fuck with him than it is to just leave him in the dark for 2 minutes."
Yeah. The closest I came without dying was probably because of Red Lobster when I.
Red Lobster, it's basically cancer.
Face death tonight at Red Lobster.
I always had the chicken tenders there, man. And
Ate
I
Red
got
Lobster.
a chicken tender, I bit into it, I'm like,
God.
this doesn't taste good. But I'm not wasting it, and I ate another one. And then I'm like, this tastes even worse. And I cut it open, it was completely bloody.
Oh.
And in 6 hours, I was in the emergency room, and
Oh,
I
yeah,
was
throw up.
puking and shitting
Yo.
all over, and...
Alright, we're getting real
first
far
time
away
my
from
mom asked my
your
doctor, "Is he okay?" And he's like,
Okay.
"I don't know."
Plarby, what do you got for us, man? Near death experiences and does your you already answered that. Alright, you know what? We're moving on. Thank you, Blue.
Okay, I've not had a near-death experience. What about talking to ghosts, though?
Oops.
Yeah.
I froze the
skipping over
stream.
now.
There we go. No. Oh, yes, that was the thing. Okay.
Tell us about your ghost talk.
Here. Alright. Yes. Let's keep this for now. Talking to ghosts. We'll talk about, like, encounters with multiple dead people and other extra-dimensional entities for the extra-dimensional entity thing. I specifically want to know about talking to dead people here.
Gonna keep it brief. Talking to dead people, I've, of course, on ghost hunting trips, I've, shouted out questions, and with the little EVP thing, I don't think I've ever really gotten like a clear, concise response. However, one time I did, at one place, which is actually my mom's current house, tried to ask a question, and then I feel something running through me, and I hear a response in like Mandarin. And she lives right next to like old train tracks, so it was a railroad worker from way back in the 1800s. We figured out, it's like, oh hey, they conscripted a bunch of folks from over in China to come work on the railroad. So it's like, okay, that makes sense. So I got a Mandarin response in my head.
Wow.
But yeah, it was like, okay.
Did he ever find out what they were saying?
No, I couldn't recall what exactly they were. I think it was a he. Yeah, I don't recall exactly what he was saying.
Gotcha.
So, unfortunately, not.
Fair enough.
Yeah, that's one that I can clearly recall.
Gotcha. So, in all your ghost hunting time, they never like said anything to you that you remember?
Not off the top of my head.
Okay.
It's kind of boring, really.
Fair enough.
In terms of speech, anyway.
I figured that much, and I do look forward to digging into that a bit more. Alright. So, now we're gonna do a minor chat break. I want to address some questions that were asked. Now is the time, if anyone in chat does have anything to say about their own beliefs about life after death, whether life has an impact on your death experience or your life after death experience. and communicating with the dead, near-death experiences, stuff like that. While we wait, so Cruella de Chill, I think, had a good question. She said, how do you know who you have to make amends with? I think that was directed towards Sarah. If anyone else has insights on that, feel free to chime in as well.
Usually if it's gonna really stand out to you, like really stand out to you. If there is a lot of intense energy with this person, that's usually a sign that it can also be a reflection of like some past life stuff. Yeah. So maybe you had some conflicts with this person in a previous life, and they might not remember what happened, but their soul still feels that, you know, it's in the same way where you meet someone that you feel like you know them already, like they were your friends in a previous life, and you just feel that connection with them instantly. It can be the same way, you know, someone being like, hey, I remember that fucker.
Oh no.
You know? it could go the other way as well. So yeah, if there's someone that you have a really like really intense conflict with them, it can be related to past life stuff. But at the same time though, not everything can be resolved. It really depends. Like it's a two-way street. So if the other person is not really willing to cooperate, you know, you can at least do the best that you can on your part, and then, you know, you can be like, okay, well, I did what I needed to do. You know, whatever you decide to do, that's entirely up to you, and you can just walk away from it. But yeah, that's my beliefs on that.
What if you never meet the person?
Oh, you will. If it's
Oh.
important for you to meet the person, you will.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, you will.
I'm comfortable taking your word for that. Does that answer your question, Cruella de Chill? Does anyone else want to weigh in on that question? Nope. All right.
I think she said, gotcha. She said, oh, okay, gotcha.
Nice.
Oh, yeah.
We did it. Oracle of Twilight, I don't think they're here anymore. They said, my personal beliefs are a bit wild. Long story short, I believe when people die, they enter in a higher consciousness and are able to decide whether you want to come back or not. People also have a rundown of what they will learn in the life they choose. Some people have no choice and have to be here until they get things right. Damn, I am upset that they left. I have a lot of questions here. Does anyone else believe this? Because I'll ask you the questions if so. If not,
what was the personal belief?
Plarby, what did you say?
What was it again?
Let me copy and paste it. And Sarah, what did you say?
Oh, I was saying it makes sense to me. Like, I also kind of partially believe that as well.
That's what they said. I pasted it in chat. So why they enter higher consciousness, I jive with that, are able to decide whether you want to come back or not. What's the end goal here? That's always gonna be my question. What is that? Like, for me, it's apotheosis. Your soul ascends, you're now in godhood mode. What is the goal with this belief? Because that would beg the question, why would you not want to come back or go to a life to learn shit that you need to learn?
Maybe like with that, so soul is eternal. Maybe, I mean, if you're just sitting up there not progressing, you're basically just the soul not doing anything. Maybe you go back to gain more into that, kind of what you were saying earlier, to learn more, to do more, and then in and out. Maybe even with what he's saying is like, hey, there's a giant checklist of things you have to do. Like, you have to live this kind of life. You have to live this kind of life until you've gained everything. I don't know.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's what I was saying. And like, in that vein, why, like, you'd have to do everything. So if you're given the option, like, why wouldn't you want to do everything? I don't know. Sarah?
I've just heard a very interesting sort of like theory or idea that we are all basically pieces of God or whatever you call it, just basically examining itself from different perspectives and different angles. So that's another way of kind of looking
I
at
hear
it.
that. I actually, it's interesting you bring that up. I heard about that theory through Jewish mysticism, that we're all basically pieces of God. And he's like, well, no, okay, I'll say this. My sister was trying to explain an aspect of Jewish mysticism to me, and I interpreted it as we're all pieces of God, and he's like, he's perfecting himself by filtering out certain aspects of himself, which are us. I don't think that's what she meant, because I'm pretty sure she laughed at me when I said that. But I'm glad, Sarah. I'm curious to know where you heard this. Maybe there's something out there.
I can't really remember actually. I don't know. I went through a period when I was just reading like a ton of different perspectives on spirituality and how we're connected with each other and things like that. So yeah, I can't remember where exactly I heard it, but I was kind of like, hey, that does kind of make sense. Because we all are connected. We all are connected. We're connected with all life, and yeah, we all learn through experience. So being whichever side of the coin you're on, you're still learning something from that experience, from interacting with other people.
I fucks with that. Okay, in that vein, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna throw caution to the wind here. This next, y'all know. Oh,
Can we call
Plarby.
it the old razzle dazzle?
We cannot.
Plarby has something to say too, I think.
Plarby, we'll get to you in like an hour. Thank you. No, just kidding. I'm joking. Plarby, I'm fucking with you. Please take it away, my good sir.
No, I was just talking about that whole thing. Like, for Peep, is it the same thing?
What?
It reminds me of a short story called The Egg, where it's like the main character, who is you. It's like you die and then you talk to God, as it were. It's like, I feel God. It's like, I'm your parent. You are the Earth. Was like the story goes like the Earth is an egg, and all of us are the same person, doing every single life, learning everything. So like we're Hitler, we're Buddha, we're Gandhi, etc., etc. That's what it reminded me of. It's just like, it's an interesting view on things. We could all be the same consciousness.
Oh, yeah.
But we don't remember it.
I wanted to slap the shit out of Neil deGrasse Tyson when I heard him recite that on Logic's rap album. Because I was like, this motherfucker, they ripped off my white ball theory and I'm going to beat him up. But it's
a short story written in 2009.
Wait, it was written in 2009?
Yeah, yes.
I knew they ripped it off of me. God damn it. I came up with my shit way before that.
Unless you're
2008.
But
2008.
like I've said before, not on this Soulspeak episode, but while I do fancy my own beliefs, my amalgamation of them, I don't take credit for any of it. I feel like all of these ideas and notions have been around for a while, no matter how we want to mishmash them together. That is an interesting theory, Plarby. I feel like it's a bit too personal. Like, do we all have to be Hitler and Gandhi? Can we not learn our lessons in other different, maybe a bit more vague and less murdery ways? I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe not. I don't know. The universe works in mysterious ways.
I will take what
all I know is that throughout this life, I have learned from my brother what not to do.
Yeah.
My father bore a similar role for me. So that's fair. Yeah. Okay, we're gonna move on, guys. We are gonna move on to e.d.es. We're gonna throw caution to the wind here, and because I mean, what I have listed, I have ghosts, angels and demons, shadow people, other entities.
Oh boy.
How to delineate between e.d.e. Well, okay, we'll save that. But let's talk about ghosts, angels and demons, shadow people. I think are the three big ones. I'm grouping angels and demons because blah 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 depends on your perspective. And other entities we could throw in there as well. So let's fucking talk about it. We got Plarby, who's a ghost hunter. We have Sarah, who is actually a matron of 1,000 Ghost Army. I seen it. And Shiny Shoes definitely does that sometimes. So we got a lot going on here.
What is that song?
Thousand Nation.
Currentcraft 5000 from Zombie Nation.
Zombie Nation.
Zombie Nation.
Zombie Nation.
That's the artist, not.
Magnus, stop being so fucking knowledgeable. It's not necessary, okay? We want to hear Zombie Nation and Bump FS. Well, we're from Jersey over here. Look at him.
You know all that.
Look, I don't. He's possessed. Sarah possessed him with the zombie ghost.
Zombie.
That's canon now. Ship it.
He said ship it.
Exciting TwitchCon apparently.
All right. Who wants to take this away?
I think Blue does.
I'll let someone else go first this time.
Blue seems
That's
very
fair.
excited.
Blue, let's get it, boy.
Alright,
Woo!
so this is I've been like super looking forward to tonight because I feel like I can finally like have people that don't roll their eyes when I tell them these things.
I'm gonna roll them just for you, buddy.
Thank you. Love you too.
I'm still rolling my eyes about another comment, Blue.
So like, I 100% know ghosts exist. Like, I don't think it. I 100% know it because the things that have happened to me. I've been sitting. These are just some examples. I've been sitting in my chair, where it is literally slid a good like 3 feet while I'm sitting on it, and I'm not moving myself. It's not like I'm shifting my weight or anything. And you've seen the chair and a half yourself, right, Slurp? So you remember it's not like a tiny, weightless thing.
Yes, I can confirm.
I've heard my parents calling me at like 1 in the morning, and I jump right up, open a door, and everyone's like asleep or the lights are off and no one's there. I've heard knocking at my door. I've been pushed, and I wake up with random cuts like on my face and hands and arms. My electronic devices, before I go to sleep every night, I always charge it. Even if it's brand new, this happens, by the way. Charge it to 100%. The only thing I leave on at the lowest brightness is my phone for the alarm. And when I wake up, it's at like 20%, and any other electronic device that happens to be near me, dead or almost dead. So I mean, that's just my favorite one, because this shows how people can like be living in denial. Okay, the way our house is, right? I don't know if you can picture this layout, but if you're watching TV, on your right is a fireplace, right? And on your left are windows, about a good, I would say, 50 feet away. Watching TV, all the windows were closed, and the shades were closed as well. And one of the cards from the top of the fireplace basically flew at me, like 10 feet away from the fireplace. Like, it launched. It wasn't like it tipped over, fell down. It launched. And both my parents saw it. And to this day, they're still trying to say, like, oh, it was probably a draft. It was probably the wind. Like, what wind? There's nothing, like, nothing is open. Even the flue for the fireplace. Closed. What are you talking about? Like, so, yeah, that's just some of the many things that have happened. I've heard voices. I had someone who is very connected, kind of like Sarah, like in terms of being able to like feel or talk to things, whatever. Like, she came into my house and I told her like different things that have been happening, and she was like sleeping over that night, and I'm like, just let me know if you experience anything. And the next morning she said, you have a child living with you. Like, and he's not negative towards you in any way. He loves being around you because he says you're like very positive, like, person, very playful, and he's just like feeding off of that. But there's another thing in like around that scares him terribly, and he like hides from it. So yeah.
Any idea what these things are?
I mean, I asked her for specifics, like was it another person, whatever. She said she couldn't tell, or the kid wouldn't tell, I don't know. But when I've described like the fact that I wake up with like scratches or perfect tiny holes like in my skin that like bleed, they try and tell me, oh, like that sounds demonic, not
It
ghost.
does. I'm
So,
gonna say it right now. That sounds demonic, dude. You need to like, you need to get some cleansing in
Get
your
some
place.
sage.
Yeah, some sage.
So I shouldn't be talking shit to it, because that's what I basically
would.
do. I'm like, if you're gonna do it to my face, like stop doing it when I'm sleeping.
No,
Like,
don't challenge it. Don't challenge it. Okay, that's not a good idea.
Can't.
because I get like very annoyed.
I got a scale.
Sarah, once.
Is it gonna move around the house?
To cause physical harm, that requires a lot of power. I would suggest you don't try to like challenge it or provoke it, but yeah, you do need to do some things to like get it out of your place. So
Burning
Yeah,
sage.
talk to you about how.
Okay, don't say burning sage and then do this.
Yeah, you're.
Are we burning? Alright. I thought we were burning.
Weird burning sage.
This is how my dad taught me to burn sage. I don't know what you guys want from me. And if you get two pieces of sage in your hand, you could get two demons at one time. The demons won't stand a chance.
What have I got myself
Oh
into?
my God.
He's on to something. He is on to something.
Maybe that's what I'll do. I'll just do that to the demon and he'll be all happy and leave me alone.
He's like, yo,
Handy, give me handy.
nobody's ever come at me this way before. I'm not sure.
Sage.
Oh my god.
Woo! Plarby, Sarah, alright, you know what? Should we defer to Plarby and Sarah after each haunting story so they can tell us what to do? Because I think they're the experts here. I mean, I got two hands. I'll come at it, but I'm just we might have more fruit and memes. Alright, Sarah, you,
All of his demon friends, you're like, listen, let me tell you where you want to go. This guy uses mold. It's wild.
Sometimes you need to get OnlyFans content for your demons. It's important. Plarby, how would you deal with Blue's nonsense? Because I feel like
nonsense.
no, I mean I'm not saying like not true. I mean like it's nonsense that he's being fucked with, which that's nonsense.
Well, yeah, I would definitely talk about what you're doing. Get a thing of sage, smudge it in like your personal safe area. Just like tell them to fuck off. No negative energy is allowed in this house. Go around to every room you can get to.
I would
fuck out.
Plarby. So, Sage Advocate, I would like to know, though, how would you go about discovering what it is?
Discovering what it is. I mean, you could do, like, if you can get your hand on some EVP equipment, like, a basic handheld digital recorder will do. Make sure everyone's quiet so it can pick up on the background noise. Of course, you'd have to go into your computer afterward and really crank up the volume on that in a I don't know, what's the one I use? Audacity.
Oh yeah, Audacity running in the background. Pick up things you never expected it to.
Really?
Yeah, it can pick up all the background.
Oh yeah.
Magnus, what do you got for us?
So again, I'm gonna take your wonderfully segmented stuff and just jump over from between two of them because it fits too. Let me
Take
tell you
that.
about how I told my fiance that she was going to be getting a small black kitten. So, about, I want to say it was the middle of last year, my roommate Boozed and I, we went out with another streamer that we're friendly with, and for the love of God, every time I forget that he's not actually the religion that we subconsciously associate him with because of his family, but he's actually a practicing Wiccan. And we went out for the day, and we were out somewhere. I forget what we were doing during the day, but the whole point was we were on our way back. It was, I want to say it was one of the supermoons last year. And I'm sitting there, and we're at we're out of all things at Applebee's. And I'm just sitting here. I am exhausted, like to the point of where I'm expecting that I'm delirious and I should not trust anything I see. He's fine. He ate more recently than I had. And I'm just like, I haven't eaten. I barely drank anything. I think we went to a show. We either went to a show or we went to PAX Unplugged. I don't remember which one it was. But we're at this Applebee's and we're just eating. And I saw, and I'm like, fucking like shadow of a cat for no good reason, like in the corner by the servers. Like, all right, whatever. I'm to the point of exhaustion where I'm probably seeing this. And the way we're setting up, he's sitting on my side of the Booze is sitting across from us, like looking towards us, so he would have no way of seeing it. And he knows that I have some inclination towards the spiritual, so on and so forth. And I'm just keeping an eye on this thing, and like you could definitely discern cat eyes kind of looking at us, the position that we were at. And I'm just ignoring it because, you know, I haven't eaten all day. I'm kind of dehydrated. I'm waiting till that's done. So I've got food and drink in me, and I'm still noticing it. I'm like, okay, I'm still probably yes. At which point he leans over to me and goes, "Do you see that thing that kind of looks like a shadow of a cat at the servers?" And I go, "Oh shit, no, he sees it too. This is weird." So we're sitting there and we're acknowledging it. It just kind of keeps looking at me. And then one of the servers like went to go ahead and move to a table near us, and it definitely went with their shadow. And then it was just kind of sitting at the table across from where we were, which had no one at it, just kind of staring at me. And it was distinctly me. And we tested. I got up and went to the bathroom and we watched its eyes follow. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, wow, okay, weird. There is a somewhat seemingly shadow of, I'm guessing, a cat going ahead and, you know, following. So we finish eating and everything. Something happened like right before we left. There was a power surge, and like the building lights flickered a brief moment, and then it was gone. And I was like, oh, convenient power surge. How one? Oh, I don't want to go ahead and sleep in the dark tonight. So went home. Was like, that was super weird. He and I acknowledged that it happened. We was in the car, and he's like, well, that was definitely more enjoyable than the old family I was watching as they sat there and gummed their chicken. So I get home.
What?
And like, this is an experience that both this other person and I had. We discussed it in person at that. So I sent a text message to my fiance, who is practicing Wiccan, and I'm like, hey, had a really weird thing happen at Applebee's tonight. Kept seeing what appeared to be the silhouette of like a tiny black cat just staring at me all evening. Really weird. Hope you're having a not so fucking weird night. Talk to you in the morning. Go to bed, wake up, see a text message. Who told you? I send her a message back, like, who told me what? Nobody told me anything. And she's like, who told you? No, was it our friend Katie? Was it her boyfriend Chris? Who told you? I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. And she's like, listen, Chris and I's coworker is literally has a cat that's having a litter of kittens. Apparently they had it last night that I'm adopting.
Oh.
And that's Nox. That's the cat that's been on my Twitter all over the place and everything. She's like, who told you I was getting this kitten? And I'm like, nobody. This cat better not fucking hate me when I...
Oh boy.
Cat loves me.
Absolutely. I think you got a familiar Magnus.
Yeah, no, I'm just there.
He
The
might.
best part is when she got Nox, he absolutely hated everybody in the house but her. Like, literally would go ahead and bother their dog, who's like 13 years old and will not back. Like, will ride the dog like it's horse.
Yeah.
And so I came up to visit when Knox was about like 6 months old.
Oh, you good baby.
And so he's super obnoxious, super rambunctious. And like I laid down like almost a spot. She's like, oh no, he's not gonna like that. That's his spot. He looked at me, kind of walked over to me, walked back away, and then laid down on my lap and fell asleep. And she's like, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah.
And that's been my experience with at least shadow entity. As for like ghosts, yeah, I'm a standard old school goth. I would sometimes go have picnics in graveyards. My list of like weird experiences is a very long one. Distinct stories, we kind of went over my major. I've had moments of just being in places. I went to a Roman Catholic high school, and we used to have religious retreats there. And underneath there were catacombs where they had laid the area's bishops and deacons and priests that had passed away to go ahead and be in the catacombs. There were so many things. So many things. Like, they were just not at rest at all. And it was absolutely just unnerving. Like, it was hard to sleep at those retreats. And the best part is, like, in the morning, they're like, did everyone have a good rest? And we're like, no. What the hell did you bring us here for?
just the no, and just the straight dead
Of course
man
not.
face
Like,
right after.
they're like, okay, it's 6 in the morning. We're going to go ahead and talk about God's influence on your life. And I'm like, can we talk about the fucking shower going on?
Oh
at 2
my
in the
God.
morning when everyone's in the room? Can we talk about that instead? No, we're talking about God's influence. Oh. Okay. Sure. His influence needs to be a little bit stronger on getting his priests to go ahead and transcend into the afterlife. That'd be great.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I've got my laundry list. I'm not going to take up time. I just thought the Knox story was definitely an enjoyable one that tied into
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
I liked it. It's a
Yeah.
Satan cat. I fucks with it.
Sure, yeah. His name was almost Lucifer.
Lucifer. I love
Yeah.
it. I love it.
That's cute.
It's a black cat with a pun.
Detective. Sorry, I've been watching
Detective.
Okay. I got a question. I think it was from. Hold up. Oh, of course I didn't copy the source of it. Someone asks, "How would you all approach a haunting?"
Oh, that was
I want-
He was making a joke at first.
with
Well,
Gusto.
I wanted to touch on Plarby and Sarah here because I think they have, not just for this question, I kind of want them to open up the forum to this ghost, demon, shadow people sort of atmosphere. Plarby, can you tell us a bit about your experiences as a ghost hunter?
Yes, I can, and I shall.
Thank
In
you.
song. No, I don't know ukulele or anything. So I've only really gone as a big group of ghost hunters, maybe like 2 or 3 times. One of them ties into the Chinese that I heard in my head because I didn't really know if it was Mandarin or Cantonese. I just guessed. But it was actually, like I said, it was at my mom's house. It's like there's just shadow things going all over the place. What's going on? So it's like, okay, we're next to a railroad track, old railroad tracks, going all the way up to Canada down to the end of California. So clearly that whole stuff happened, and this ghost actually, it was actually a shadow. Like he came across as a shadow person, but I guess it was the ghost of someone who worked there. Nothing really much happened throughout the night. It's like, okay, yeah, well, look, there's like one of my mom's 7 cats or something, and we did. I think we caught like I don't have the footage, unfortunately, but we caught at least 2 times, like a little... And at the time, nobody moved or was in the vicinity of that camera. Just like a shadow going against the wall. And it was like, whoa. So it's like, okay, this is happening somewhere around the kitchen. So we go into the kitchen, and we're like, my partner and I at the time were just like, okay, is anyone here? Okay, I'm feeling more of a cold spot right over here. And then all of a sudden, straight through me, everything was cold and shocking at the same time. It was kind of like a static electricity, just like bzz, through here, but everything just went cold right after. And that's when I heard the Chinese language in my head. I was like, okay, that's weird. The other one that really did a big thing was going down to Coos Bay, which is in South Oregon coast. It's like the biggest on the west. No, it's not the biggest. It's just like the most international for the Northwest, I guess. Like they get a lot of different boats in, including some parts of the Caribbean. Anyway, so we're investigating this old theater called the Little Theater on the Bay. That's not the actual name. That's what we call it. It used to be an orphanage, and so it's like, okay, yeah, let's go check that out. First, so we did like a 2-nighter because my grandma, who at the time was like the chairman of their board, was like, yeah, this stuff doesn't really start happening if you're just there for one night. So it's like, okay, we'll do a 2-nighter. First night, sure enough, nothing much. Second night though, we do our usual rounds. My partner at the time and myself, we go out into like the main seating, and we sit down in a row just like here's the balcony, like this row here. So just so you can see where the balcony stops. So just like, throwing out the questions and whatnot. Before that, just before I get to that really cool part, something weird happened when I had this, and like, so the rows of seats have wood rests on them, and at the end of one of the rows, I was like, scanning around the metal, nothing. But when I hit the wood part, like just barely touched the wood part, it goes nuts. Someone's resting their arm there, it seems. There's no electronics hooked up to the seating at all, and it was just that armrest and the one on the other side of the seat. So it's like, okay, someone has their arm there. Anyway, we sit down in there, or that's what my conclusion was. It was like, maybe someone's resting their arm. Maybe it's just some sort of weird charge that the wood is holding. Who knows? All I know is we sit down in the thing. We're throwing out questions. I'm just like leaning my head back up because I'm like, I'm a little. It's kind of like boardish, looking around, and then I see them. People looking over the balcony at us. So I was like, huh.
People, or ghosts?
Ghost people.
Okay.
Not sure at this point. So I tap my partner on the shoulder. It's like, hey, what do you see on the balcony? People looking at us. Pick the radio. Hey, Dwayne. Is there anyone else currently upstairs? Nope. Well.
Wow.
That's awesome.
And it goes on from there that some people start seeing like the reported couple of girls playing out in the backstage area, because it used to be an orphanage. No reported deaths, but who knows. And it just goes, it just sort of just keeps going from there for the rest of the night. It was probably the biggest thing I've ever been a part of with that. But yeah, of course that doesn't really beat someone running through me.
Yeah.
Did you capture that on any sort of recording device?
Unfortunately, no, we didn't have a camera set up for it.
Fair enough.
But we did get some plausible evidence when we had the camera set up on stage. But no full body apparitions, unfortunately.
But when it like ran through, it was like a bone chilling kind of cold that you felt.
It was real cold. I was like, okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And another thing was about going back to the cat. I've got a different experience with black cat, or seeing black cats going. Like, it wasn't really a black cat, running out of the corner of my eye or staring at me, but it was calmly, like, this was a repetitious thing where it was calmly walking by. And I had the urge to, or I was getting, like, a slight urge to follow it. And, of course, I'm like, Mom, there's a black cat out there that just keeps walking by. And she's like, don't follow it. Because it was according to her, it was a malevolent entity. I'm like,
not even a real cat, like a straight up
Yeah,
spiritual demon cat thing.
Some sort of thing that echoes bad tidings.
Like a trickster kind of spirit, or
Could have been.
Well, it was just saying, like, it was just trying to beckon me along. It's just like,
That actually reminds me, my friend and I were driving, and we both saw a black cat dash across the highway we were driving down. But, like, it ran too fast to be a cat. It was, like, we saw the shape of a cat, and we both because we were both like, holy shit, why'd that cat just run out? But, like, we were going maybe 65 miles an hour, and this cat just ran across right in front of the car. Like, no fucking way. Cats go what? Like 30 tops, 20 even? I don't know. How fast do cats go?
Depends on the cat, really.
Depends on the cat, yeah.
A house cat.
yeah.
Depends on how tuppy your house cat is.
Approximately 16.1 miles per hour.
What?
yeah.
Cheetahs
16.1
do
miles per
that.
hour. I'm
Cats
kidding.
can
Oh my god.
for you.
I was gonna say.
cats can book it if they're freaked out enough.
Yeah.
They can't maintain a cheetah speed though.
Yeah.
They're.
No.
Back cat hyperdrive mode initiated.
And another thing I remember. And another thing I remember.
Plarby, I do need to ask you to speed it up a bit for time constraints, please.
Yes. This is the last one. Another thing I remember happening a lot with me living with my mom and like both the houses I did, seeing her walk into the kitchen and then come out of her room. There is no connecting path there. Two separate distinct closing. Weird, not current mom, actual mom. And then seeing myself on my bed at the time on my laptop for like a split second. I was like the back of me. I was like, fuck. Yeah.
Parallel universe, maybe.
Them
Maybe.
echoes.
Time glitch?
Parallel
It's
universe, I
possible.
like that.
That happened to me on LSD before. I mean, I didn't do drugs.
No.
Don't.
At that point in time, I had never taken any drugs.
I believe it. I'm just
Yeah.
saying we tap into some shit sometimes.
Yeah.
Okay. Sarah, would you like to second this lead he's?
So we're on the topic of ghosts, right?
Yes, you can mix and match. Angels and demons,
Okay.
shadow people,
I
other.
mean, I've got a few stories.
And guys,
this
mind you,
one-
Sorry, Sarah. I just want to make it clear to everybody. It needn't all just be like, this happened to me, then this happened to me. Like, also let us know what your thoughts on these entities are. Are they different? Where are they from? What is their purpose? So share your stories as well, but I'd definitely like some insights from you guys as to what these things are. Also. Okay, Sarah.
Okay. So this is in Taiwan. I was living in a different place that was full of ghosts. And so I was constantly feeling like I was being watched and stuff, and they were just everywhere. And one day I could feel like there was just someone like really like just like watching me very intensely. And this was in the middle of the day. I fell asleep on my bed, and then I kind of went into this sort of mid stage where like my eyes were closed, but it was like my eyes were open. Like I was still lying in my bed. I could see everything around me. It was the daytime. And yeah, and so after that, I kind of shifted into something else. So I thought I was like, oh, I'm finally dreaming now. And I was in this completely white space. Like there's no wall, no floor, nothing. It's just all white. And I'm seeing all of these people walking around. And then I noticed there's one particular person that was like just glaring at me. And so my attention went to that person. I went up to him and I was like, what do you want from me? And he looked shocked, like he was kind of taken aback that I just went up to him and approached him and asked him that question. And he looked like native Taiwanese, because there's actually native tribes here. And yeah, he had like his hair was very long, and it was he had like a little bit of white hair, and it was in a high ponytail, and he was wearing just like regular clothes though, like a golf shirt and like khaki pants. And when he responded to me though, like he was speaking to me in some other language. Like it did not sound like Mandarin, it did not sound like Taiwanese, it sounded like something else. So I think that was actually like a native language, but clearly we could not communicate because yeah, we didn't speak the same language. But he was kind of slowly backing away, and he was kind of like muttering something. And yeah, afterwards I woke up, and then I felt like I felt like they kind of left me alone for a few days after that. Yeah, so I told my Buddhist friends about this experience, and I was like, yeah, like I think it was like a spiritual dream or something. And they're like, that was not a dream, you actually went into the spirit world, and that can be dangerous. And I was just like, oh, okay.
Why were they so sure of that?
Because they do this all the time. They can see into the spirit realm very, very clearly. So yeah, they basically clarified that for me, and I was just like, oh, okay. So, and this has only happened to me a couple times in my life. But yeah, I had no idea up until then that I was actually like going into spirit world. And yeah, it can be dangerous. So yeah, that was one of my experiences with ghosts.
So you were the ghost. Bum bum bum.
I was astral traveling, I guess. I don't
God,
know.
we're stuck in a Goosebumps book.
I likes it.
As for like angels and demons though, I definitely have some experiences. There's a really awful period in my life where I had a curse put on me, a very serious one. And it was also like, it was related with a demon. There was a demon that was following me. And basically what it would do is it would make people around me just automatically hate me, even if I did absolutely nothing. They would just hate me and would try to like scam me or hurt me in some way or just make my life difficult. So I dealt with that for 4 years. But a really freaky thing that happened during that time though, this is when I was at my parents' house. I was staying there, and I could feel like I was sitting at my desk, and I kind of sort of like saw out of the corner of my eye this sort of like portal opening, and I didn't want to accept it. I was like, nope, not happening. Nope. I kind of tried to ignore it, and I could feel like that there was something in my room. And so I stood up, and then I felt this cold clawed hand grab onto my arm, and it physically pulled my arm back. And so I immediately like shook my arm in reaction, and I was like, what the fuck just happened? Like, I was really freaked out, and I was still kind of in denial. I was like, okay, no, that did not just happen. And then it happened a second time. It like grabbed my arm and like pulled it back, and I shook my arm again. I was like, okay, I need to get out of here. So I started, because like my room is in the basement, so I started to go like towards, started to leave, and then I could hear footsteps behind me. So I started to run at that point. And so I'm like running up the stairs, and it actually like grabbed onto my feet. So I tripped, and I was screaming and crying. And this was at nighttime as well. And I ran up to my parents' room, and my mom like prayed over me and stuff. And yeah, that was really freaky. But afterwards, nothing like that happened again, though. But I do think that was related to the curse that it was dealing with.
I don't like that.
Okay, one more story though. This is a different situation. I was helping out a friend of mine here in Taiwan. She had a very complex spiritual problem, and also involving demons. And my Buddhist friends and I were supposed to like meet with her, and so something bad had happened to her. I don't want to get into too many details because it is also very personal, and it's some really heavy shit. But something really bad happened to her before we were supposed to meet up previously. So like this time I was like, I don't want anything to stop this from happening, because we do need to meet so we can help her. And so I was praying and like speaking out against the negative influences that were around her. And suddenly there was this feeling of total dread in my room. I was like, this was like before I was gonna go to sleep, by the way. So and I could see like a red orb, and I was kind of getting an image of like this very like large demon in my mind. And yeah, just the feeling of dread was like completely undeniable. So I prayed to God, and I asked, like, can you please like send some angels here to help me out, because like this is something serious going on. And then all of a sudden, like, I felt like someone came in, and then I was seeing like these shadows moving around like crazy, and that's when I knew that like they were fighting. Like there was an angel there, and they were fighting. And then it was just this very intense energy, and then suddenly it just all disappeared, and everything was at peace. And like I knew that the angel had like gotten rid of it, and I was able to I went to sleep totally fine. Like there was no problem. I didn't have any worries or anything. So the next day when we all met up, my Buddhist friend, he saw me, and he started to like get tears in his eyes, and he was just like, there is a very, very strong angel behind you right now. And yeah, like he was just so like overwhelmed, and he described this angel as like very, very muscular, very, very strong, and he had like a huge sword. And yeah,
He took a human form.
yeah, well, I mean, like the typical angel of like a human form but with wings. But yeah, he was a very, very strong angel. I don't know which angel it was. Who knows? Maybe it was Archangel Michael, because he's like often Michael. Yeah.
Shani could take him.
Castiel.
I like
Sorry,
Castiel.
what?
I was just
Castiel, my favorite.
I was saying Shani could whoop his ass. All right. He gon'
Yeah, we're just gonna send Shiny Shoes. He's our base representative. You got this.
Listen,
Sarah,
here, Angel. You seem like a nice guy, but I'm gonna have to give you the old razzle dazzle. Go.
stop with the razzle dazzle. We're not razzle dazzling yet.
Do not razzle dazzle.
Thank you, Plarby. Not until your pants are off, Shinies.
But I'm a gentleman. I'll start with a handshake first. That's how you start everything.
That's fair. I respect that. Sarah, thank you for sharing that. Okay. So, who else would like to share something about it? Alright. Blue, Shiny, do either of you have a story about a specific category of, like, shadow people? Have you ever seen shadow people?
No, but nothing really, anything like that. Like I talked about earlier, just basically a lot of echo type thing. Like I'll see someone walking somewhere, and then right after that, like you'll see him walking again. You're like, what in the world just happened? Or like, as Plarby said, like he's walked into his room and has seen himself before. I've like opened a door and saw myself where I'm gonna go, but like for just a brief second, you're like, well. You stop and you kind of look for a second. You're, oh, okay, no, nothing's there. Maybe I was seeing something. So, like that's happened to me multiple times. I'm always just like,
multiple times.
Yeah, like you open something and that's just weird to me. But I don't think it's that same thing as like that echo, because like think of how many times you went in your house and went to the fridge, and then one time you walk down the steps and you see what you think is you at a fridge, but it's just for a brief second. It's like, oh, or you turn on the mirror and turn the bathroom light, and you like, oh, what's going on there?
But without the mirror.
Yeah, like not you in the mirror, like you see yourself there. Like just weird stuff like that has happened to me multiple times.
Oh my god. That kind of leads me to the last question of this section. Like, how do we know when this shit is real or if it's in our minds? Is there a way to test it?
That's what I chalk it up to, because like I said, how many times have I seen myself in that same mirror every day for 5 years in this house? Every day I have the same routine: get up, go to the bathroom, turn the light. It's the same thing over and over again. So I mean, I can't say it's anything weird, because maybe it's just like I've done this so many times, I'm on autopilot at this point.
It's possible. Magnus, you got some? Oh, Blue.
I was gonna say, I don't know if it's quote unquote like a shadow thing or not, but it's kind of similar to Magnus's experience. I see what looks to be my last dog, Star, like walking around a lot, like just out of the corner of my eye, enough that like I'll do like a double take, because I'll be like, oh, you know, it's like Bella or whatever, and then I'll look and I'm like, there's nothing there, but it happens probably 3 times a day or more, where like it's so pronounced and so like in my face, like, but it's never like in full vision, if that makes any sense. Like it's never like right in front of me. It's always like right off to the side, or right, you know, just out of view, or just for like a split second if it is in front of me.
It could be possible that that dog's just still watching over you.
We had a very close bond.
It's quite possible then, yeah.
Magnus?
Just kind of keep an eye on you.
Just to readdress something from earlier, and to
make it quick, please.
I am. It's gonna be fast. No, it was just reference to what Plarby had said earlier about his black cat encounters. The reason I'd actually messaged my fiance was because I was expecting it to not actually be a cat. I was trying to get her input on, hey, seeing what appears to be a shadow cat. I'm not the only person that saw it. What deal? To go with what the current question is, that's really kind of how I base my, whether or not I can go ahead and justify things away, is based on how specific it is and whether or not I was the only one. Because if someone else goes ahead and addresses that exact thing that I was unsure that I was properly seeing, and they're unsure if they're properly seeing it, and they directly ask me about it without prompting, that fucking thing's there. Like, it's one of those things where it's like, why would you go ahead and message this thing that's so obscure and out that I was thinking to myself but hadn't voiced, without going ahead and having a prompt from me, unless you were going through it as well? Like, I'm pretty sure they don't just let cats in apples. Last time I checked.
I agree.
They should.
I agree, and that's why I found the cat experience with my friend so weird. Because I've seen shadow people before, I've heard voices before, but like, I don't know how much of that shit is just me. Whether it's mental instability, whether it's tapping into another dimension to some extent, whether it's an entity making itself known to me, I don't know. Is looking out of my window in broad daylight and seeing a shadow person walking down the street, like, is that just me? I mean, this
That's
is
just
years
Florida.
ago. That's Florida. No, this was back in New Jersey, alright? They didn't play around in New Jersey with the shadow people. I saw quite a few of them. And then, like, when I was a lot younger, I'd wake up from very specific dreams. An example of one of these dreams, my mom would sew my back. She would be like, get over here. And then she'd, like, put me over her lap and dig needles into my back and sew it. And every time I'd wake up from a weird dream like that, I would hear, Eric. And my name's Eric. But, like, I was, what, 7, 6? So, I don't know. Like, I'm a fucking kid. There's weird shit out there. Don't get me wrong. But I'm very skeptical of taking everything we see, everything someone says as, oh shit, this is the wider, surreal universe at our front doorstep. It's tricky.
I'm just gonna say that spirits do especially like to prey on children, though.
Spirits?
Yeah.
Kids are
And
chock
different
full of
kinds of
energy.
spirits, different kinds of entities, they love to prey on children.
There's a reason New Jersey has literally an article. New Jersey slur. If you
You
wanna
cut
get
out
ahead-
so much.
Oh, did I?
You
New
did.
Jersey
Almost
has
like-
an article about something new.
We have an entire magazine called Weird New Jersey because so much weird shit happens in New Jersey. And
I
part
remember
of the
that.
theory behind that is because of, as a state, we're tiny, but we have such a high population density. If you go ahead and consider the sheer volume of space to the sheer number of people who have lived and died here, there's like almost a scar. And then you look at the way that people go ahead and designate ley lines for entire
I was very tempted
Kinda
to throw
land
ley lines in
right
here.
on top of New York City and New Jersey because they're right across the water from each other. And then take the number of tragedies you've had in these locations. Yeah, no, you're gonna have just a little spike in something.
So stop making fun of me for being away from New Jersey, okay? That place is a hellhole. It's a sinkhole into Hades.
It's still preferable to Florida.
No, it's not. We don't have time for this. We're moving on.
So just don't go to Louisiana. It's really haunted there too.
Well, that's fine.
Bound up.
I'll go to Louisiana because as long as there's murderous spirits and no snow, we're fine. All right. So we do have some time designated to chat. First up, Max Johnson wanted to share one of his ghost stories. He said, me and a friend were driving from Reno, taking the route that goes through Virginia City, and we stopped to take some pictures of the empty town since it was like 1 a.m. And I saw something down by the old Washoe Club that froze me like, what the fuck? I didn't even snap any pictures because I was so shocked. And I had a smell of cigar smoke around me because I mentioned the Virginia City Sheriff. What? Max, wait, you got a whiff of cigar smoke because you said the sheriff's name and you summoned a plume of cigar smoke? Is that what happened here? Don't lie to me. Max, while you elaborate on that a little bit, we have a question from, I think, was this Cruella? No, it was, yes, Cruella. Do you think some people get more experience with having interactions with different energies, shadows, angels, demons, because they are more open to them or believe in them versus people who don't believe in any of those things? Anyone want to take it? Sarah, go for it.
I would say it's a mix of things. I mean, obviously, if you are not opening yourself, to the possibility of those things existing, it's going to be a lot harder for you to encounter a lot of stuff. Also, it just also really depends on the person, how open their third eye is. I mean, everyone has a third eye, but not everyone's third eye is open. So yeah, those are different factors. I mean, like for me, I have my background, you know, as a reincarnated witch, so a lot of stuff kind of comes to me naturally. But that said, though, you don't necessarily have to be a witch to be able to have these kind of experiences. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you're a witch in a past life. I mean, a witch isn't the only, you know, type of person that can experience these things. But I do think the belief does kind of play a role as a factor into whether someone can see or experience stuff like that. And there's also some people that are just straight up in denial. Like, even if they do have these experiences, they're just like, nope, it was just the wind, or oh no, I ate something bad earlier today. I think it's just messing with my head, you know. So
There definitely are. Oh, Magnus.
My thoughts on that entirely are just people who are interested are going to look. They might find it more often. It doesn't necessarily mean they're experiencing it more often than anyone else, because I have been in places with staunch disbelievers and gotten to watch as they go ahead and say, I have absolutely no answer whatsoever what just happened. Those aren't my stories to tell. I've usually come in, which has always been rather amusing.
You cutting out?
With like 2 exceptions of cars where I've been sitting there with people like just genuinely don't believe, and then you see something that defies physics, and it's like, oh, cool.
You cut out a little bit.
You did.
Man, we're talking about the paranormal, and all of a sudden, Mike that works constantly just doesn't.
They don't want Magnus out in them.
Shucks.
They know.
Hey, I wouldn't be surprised. But all I was saying was that people who are looking for it are going to find it more often. That doesn't mean it happens more often to them. It just means they're more likely to go ahead and be aware enough to perceive what's going on. I'm not saying other people don't see it necessarily. I'm on the same page with Sarah with the third eye. However, I'm also saying that people will go ahead and look for something to justify their viewpoint regardless of what it is.
True. Like Big Blue, I think your parents, I think they do know what happened. I think they just don't want to accept it because it challenges their perception of reality.
That's real.
They would rather deny it than accept that a paranormal experience happened.
Yeah, because they're very like staunch. There's no such thing, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there is the other side of it too. The whole mind games thing. Is our mind playing tricks on us at times?
I mean, like you said, if you are specifically looking for something, if you're more looking into something, it's a lot easier to see those kind of things happening than it would if you're not. Like what they say, if you're looking for a yellow car, it's a lot easier to see a yellow car than if you're not just specifically looking for a yellow car. So,
well, like I agree. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're good.
And I was gonna say, like, I think in like some instances, like for instance, when I see my dog that's not there, I always kind of think, oh, like I could just be seeing things or whatever. But when you're sitting on a giant piece of heavy ass furniture that I struggle to move with all of my might, trying to move it, and it's thrown forward 3 feet. It's kind of hard to explain that away or say, well, you know, that's my mind playing tricks on me. So I think it depends on the situation. It's a situation by situation basis that, you know, can it be explained away? If it can't, what are you left with?
That's fair. Thank you, sir. Sarah?
Yeah, I just want to add, like, for me personally, whenever, like, something happens, I always first go with the logical discernment. That's very important. So, you know, try to look for how could this logically happen first. And then, you know, after that, I would kind of go to my intuition. So usually my gut feelings, because, like, I'm an empath. I'm very psychic, so I get like reactions within myself when something happens. So if I feel something instantly, like some kind of emotional feeling related to it, then I have to pay attention to that. Sometimes I will also get like a vision. If I close my eyes, I will like see something. So that's kind of me like looking into it more intuitively. But yeah, first and foremost, though, look into the logical part of things first. You know, anyone that's getting interested in this kind of stuff, it's very easy to get excited. You know, you hear a sound, you're like, oh, "What's that? Where's it coming from?" But yeah, you gotta discern it first to be like, "Oh, you know, it's just the wind," or "Oh, it's the neighbor's dog doing something silly," or whatever. Yeah, try to get like try to come to a logical conclusion first, and if you can't, then you can try and look further into it and see, oh, maybe there's something more to this. But yeah, that's it.
So,
Plarby.
a quote that keeps popping in my head about it. When you have eliminated the impossible, whatever remains, however improbable, must be the truth. Sherlock Holmes.
Love that quote.
I likes it.
And that's what I put into it. It's like, okay, what could this be? If we can't delete it out of, like, maybe ghost, maybe not ghost, maybe ghost.
Fair enough. Sarah, we have one last question for you. From Rain. Real quick. How did you lift your curse?
It took the help of different people. I met a like 76 generation Wiccan and a demonologist, and they helped with removing the demon, but I still needed some additional help, and that's when I met my Buddhist friends here in Taiwan. They kind of helped clean up some other related stuff, and yeah. But after the removal, though, it was a very, very long progress of recovering, because the whole thing was really traumatic, and it went on for 4 years. So,
Oh, wow.
That's
yeah.
a long time.
Yeah.
Yep, very long time to be cursed.
Well,
yeah.
I'm glad he got out of it. All right.
Thank you. I'm too.
You're welcome. I need to learn how to lift curses now. Help everyone out. And that leads us.
To lift curses?
What?
Getting swollen enough to lift curses?
I'm very jacked and tan, thank you. That's. We need to move on.
Good job.
Do you even lift?
Doth thou even hoist?
Look, all I do is lift sage all day. You can't tell.
I was just about to say that.
Stop doing that.
I just wanted people to know.
Excited.
Shiny
That
car.
might be.
Oh God.
All right, we're moving on to Sixth Senses and powers. So we covered deja vu quite a bit already. Let's go with who's
we
gonna
haven't touched mine. And
We didn't.
I have a hell of a story.
Guys, we have about an hour left. Let's try
I'll make
to
it
keep
quick.
it moving.
Yeah.
So, I have had instances where I've dreamt an entire day before it's happened, to the point where details have stuck with me, and I've literally like been dealing with that as I got to that day. There's one that very specifically stuck in my because I didn't know the people that would be involved in this before, when I had these dreams when I was younger, and then I literally knew how a conversation was going to go about something that I should not have been privy to in any way, shape, or very specifically, it was a friend of mine from the goth industrial scene. I had this dream long before I was ever truly involved. Say this was a school, so early 2000, and this is a thing that happened each one.
You're cutting out.
Of course I am. Why?
Are you using push to talk?
No.
Okay.
For once, I turned it off for your show.
Hey.
So I had a conversation with a person from the goth industrial scene, and the exact wording and phrasing, her getting ready to tell me news she didn't want to share, was so exact and so specific that I literally knew exactly what happened. And I didn't realize that I knew this information about these people until it happened that we had this conversation. And quite literally, it was her getting ready to tell me and then send me a copy of images of a conversation that two artists had about age of consent. Like, it was heavy stuff of like them saying, I like the European version better, even though they're... And it was just one of those things where she started saying like, hey, I want to tell you something. Is it okay if I go ahead and say something to you and you don't share with anyone else? And immediately in my head, I've read this before. And it's very, very... Think about it this way. How many people will tell you you don't remember what you read in your dreams? Specifically, do not remember what you read in dreams. It's very difficult to do. However, this exact lines, which was so distinct, I'm like, hold on. Give me a second. Are you about to go ahead and tell me that someone by the names of these artists... It's out there, I promised her I would. Are you going to tell me that these two artists are doing some shady shit and you want to delete all their music? And her immediate response was, did we talk about this already? And I was like, no, we haven't. However, I think I remember this conversation from a dream 10 years ago. Let me go ahead and say this. You have exact photocopies of what they did. She's like, I have the messages between them. It was sent to me. I was like, it was sent to you by our mutual friend Steve. It's the actual name. I should have changed it. And she's like, yeah. And I was like, oh, fuck. So after this, I'm going to have chicken parm for dinner, which is going to be great. But I'm going to sleep horribly.
Yeah.
And it's just one of those things where it was... I had this day, and this is not the only time, but this is a very specific time. There's been times where things that didn't make sense to me when I had these dreams that I brushed them off as just, I had a weird dream that I was older and I was in Toronto for some reason. Why would I go to Canada? And then later on in life, it's like, wow, I remember having a burger here. It's the first time you've been here. Sure is. So, but that very specific one with the musicians and a discussion about age of consent burned itself into my brain to the point where I couldn't forget it. And as soon as it started happening, I'm like, you've got to be fucking kidding me.
Wow.
It's actually to the point where there is a very popular band in our scene that a lot of people assume that I like, that I always say, no, I do not like this artist because it was about them.
Wow.
That's what's up.
So that's my deja vu story. What else do you want to talk about?
Thank you, Magnus. We wanted to talk about deja vu, gut instincts, and I'm going to add to this premonition and the nature of dreams.
Oh, cool.
That totally fit.
Did you want to touch on premonition or the nature of dreams, Magnus, before we...
I'm gonna say that sometimes it happens and sometimes it doesn't. Fucking...
Fair enough.
Like, I got nothing. That is just my experience. I have no tangible reason for knowing it. I have no tangible reason for why it happened to me. But this was a conversation that I was going to have eventually that showed up to me in a dream. And the thing that always bothered me is people often talk about how you can't remember what you read in your dreams. And that's why it always felt weird to have this deja vu and then have it show up in text form. Because everyone says you can't remember what you read in your dreams. And that this wasn't a conversation we had spoken. It was in text form. And I'm like, but how do I remember this? Like, how do I know this?
It kind of makes me wonder if the nature of premonitory abilities or psychic abilities is because, taking it back to like what Plarby and Shiny kind of mentioned, some time fuckery, or is it some sort of like innate spiritual ability to actually predict the future? Can we, through physics, maybe discover how to use psychic ability? I don't know. I will say this. I had a dream. I'll try to make this as quick as possible. I had a dream where I woke up from my room and I went to my living room, and on the news they were telling us how New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania were all being attacked by something. Shit was exploding. and shit was going awry. And then they mentioned that there were these, like, flying creatures. And I go outside, I look up in the sky, and the fucking big-ass bird things from Pitch Black were going over my house. They were, like, flying in the distance, and they were just terrorizing everything. No idea what to make of that shit. I don't remember if this dream occurred within the same dream or, like, a dream right after it. But it was before I woke up for the next day. And it was miniature Hitler and his Nazi army going down my hallway, and then he went into my Lazy Susan and, like, hit his men. And I was just, like, following, seeing, like, what the fuck are these little motherfuckers doing? And they're just marching down my house being assholes, because they're assholes. And they hit in my cabinet. So, that was on November 10th, 2001.
Very specific.
Or not November. I'm sorry, September. September
Yeah.
10th, 2001. I woke up the next day, and guess what shit happened? So I don't know. I don't know what to make of it. It's not exact. Like, it's a stretch for me to be like, hey, I predicted 9/11. Because obviously, I didn't call the president and was like, hey, this is what's going to happen. But there's a lot of parallels there. And as I got older, I won't get too much into it on this episode of Soulspeak. But the whole Nazi thing didn't really click for me at the time. But as the years went on and I started seeing some of the shit go down, in retrospect, I think it fit rather well. But as far as the immediate goes, we had the tri-state area being attacked and Pitch Black giant bird monsters fucking things up in that area. So I think there's something to premonition. That made me a believer, especially in dreams. And like Magnus was saying with his reading text and having a conversation story, there's weird shit going on. To deny it, I think would be foolish. To say I have control over it or mastered it would be a lie. So what do y'all think? You guys have similar experiences?
I mean, I looked at my father when I was like 3 or 4 years old and told him he was going to get hit by a truck. And then a couple of weeks later, he got slammed into, broadsided by a Mack truck and almost died.
Mm-hmm.
Holy shit.
Stop hitting your dad with trucks.
No.
Trucks at your dad for, God.
3-year-old should not drive. That's the problem.
Raise
No.
the legal driving age to 4, please.
Oh,
I mean, I don't know anyone that I've ever talked to that hasn't said they've had like a dream that's come like. I mean, I know there are people that say they don't dream, right?
Yes.
Have you guys heard? Yeah, I've heard people say like I just don't dream, but most people tell me yeah, when they've dreamed, they've dreamt of stuff that's actually come true. The only thing that I've heard contrary to that is people say that you're not feeling deja vu sometimes. It's your brain fact checking what's actually happening around you. Which again, I feel like I've had plenty of dreams that have come true, but that is what I've heard on the opposite side of it. It's, you're not having deja vu, it's your brain fact checking what's going on around you. Which seems weird, but just another way to look at it.
I think there's credence to that.
So I want to say it was weird because there's a repetitious dream that I haven't had in quite a while that most often led to like a conflict of some sort in my life. Like specifically, I'm going down a mountain slope on a sled, and all of a sudden I'm having to pelt snowballs at these weird little things that look like the Heartless from Kingdom Hearts, like the little impish ones.
Yeah.
It was just weird. It was like, but this was way before Kingdom Hearts came out, though. And so it's like kept repeating and repeating, but each time I had more and more backup as time went on. So like more people rallying around to help me combat these Heartless coming up at me from the slopes. So that was a thing.
Yeah.
And of course, a couple of times when I had beta fish, I had a dream about them dying, and sure enough, a week later, boom, gone. And again, they were Walmart beta fish, so.
See, I think there's definitely a psychological aspect to dreams. Some dreams can be representing your psychological state or what's going on in your mind. Like, from a psychological perspective, I could see that dream kind of maybe representing, maybe you feel like you're getting more and more support in your personal life that's kind of helping you overcome obstacles. I mean, I could be wrong. I'm just kind of speculating how that could be interpreted from a more psychological standpoint. But I mean, there's also the spiritual side of dreams as well. But it really depends. I mean, for me personally, I do experience some very spiritual dreams where I know that I'm not just dreaming. Like, I know I'm like interacting with some kind of spirit or entity, or sometimes I'm actually interacting with somebody else. It's happened a few times before, and I know I was having a conversation with somebody in that dream, because like the next day I would see them and they'd be acting real weird. So like, yeah. No, like stuff like that happens. Yeah, and then there's astral projection. That's a whole nother aspect. But regarding premonition, though, I've had quite a few of those. I'm gonna give you a really lighthearted one from when I was a kid. I had a dream that I was playing Mario Brothers 3, and I was in a level, like in a desert level, and for some reason I went to the left and I went up, and all of a sudden I was in another area that had water. So this was like, I think a few months later, I was actually playing Mario Brothers 3, and I think it was the second level in like the desert area. I can't quite remember, but right at the beginning, I noticed there was a block in the top left corner, and I was like, huh. And I just so happened to have like the raccoon suit so I could fly up there. So I went up there, and sure enough, I'm breaking these blocks and I'm going up, and then I'm in this area with water, and I like froze, like my jaw dropped, I froze. I was like, what? Like, what just happened? Like, I couldn't believe it. But I think that was when I was like, 11 years old or something.
Wow.
But yeah.
We're talking about murdering ghosts here, and Sarah's like, yeah, I was playing Mario one time.
My premonitions made me a better gamer.
I practice in
That's
my
fair,
dreams,
though.
to my level noobs.
I likes it. That's valid, though. It lends credence
Play
to
the
the
game every time.
idea, I think, that there's some shit going on. Like, is it something that is present in all of us? This potential to sort of see or to feel out the universe around us, not just in terms of space, but in terms of time. Or does there have to be a strong sort of emotional backing to it? I don't know. Because it seems like a lot of the time when you hear about these sorts of things going down, like mine was about 9/11, or at least I think it was. But Sarah over here had one about Mario. So like, are there requirements for this shit? Does one have to be like intrinsically in tune themselves? Do you need training? Like, what goes into this premonition stuff if it is real? Or relative powers? We could even throw telepathy in the mix here.
I think any kind of like spiritual or psychic skill is something you can train to improve on if you desire to. I do think it is possible to train and improve on those kind of skills. I don't know if anyone else has anything they want to add as well.
I'm inclined to agree with you.
Yeah.
I think ultimately, like, magic is just stuff that we haven't quite wrapped our head around yet. Like, it's probably science of the future, just like electricity might have been magic at some point. And I think there's something to be said about learning something and then learning how to get better at it. Whether it's something we do internally by directing our focus and our wills and our spirit or soul energy, whatever you want to refer to it as, or ki. There's so much shit we don't know. That's the problem. I think it's crazy when people say, like, none of this stuff is real. I know Mr. Fun was saying in chat, like, oh, well, people should respect that. And at the end of the day, I guess, like, yeah, I can't personally prove this shit to you guys, to anybody. But I think most people who, like, have an open enough mind, or like not a consciously closed mind even, can see that there's so much weird shit going on that you can't just say like, no, it doesn't happen or exist. Or are we just that crazy as human beings? Maybe I'm the asshole here. I don't know.
We're all high on oxygen.
That's true. Oxygen's a drug. That's what they say. Maybe. Don't tell my moms.
Totally just oxygen. No nitrogen or anything else.
Nitrogen doesn't count.
Carbon as well, bro.
Carbon.
Um,
Do any of you have anything to add to the idea of dreams and premonitions? Anything you guys have had?
Not premonitions, but I have a theory about dreams. A couple of different theories that people might think is off the wall, but I believe that our dreams are a way of seeing what's going on with ourselves from another reality, like what we're doing in that alternate reality at that point in time. And like that's why you can't really, like, if you die in your dream, like you die for real because it's a piece of you. As far as the other theory, the other one, this is like a newer theory for me, but it's like those alternate realities, so to speak, like the dreams that you're seeing are actually like we're all broken off like pieces of a bigger being, kind of like what was being spoken about earlier, and like we're shards basically of one piece, and we're scattered around, and when we dream we're connecting those pieces to each other, but we only do it when we're asleep though.
That's neat.
I like
I was
it.
just gonna say that's a really interesting theory. Yeah, that's very interesting.
Yeah, because it's like there's a lot of dreams I've had where it's very vivid, where it's not like it feels like I'm not dreaming. You know what I mean? Like it's so real, so vivid. And like Magnus, I think it was Magnus that was saying earlier, you shouldn't be able to read in dreams. I can read in like 80% of my dreams. Not all of them, but the ones that I do are usually the ones that are the most vivid and the most like real.
And you said that you died in some of these dreams?
I've only one did I ever like actually die and like feel it, remember it, whatever. Like usually it's always been like, oh, I wake up like as it's about to happen, like out of breath, whatever, shaking. But one time, yeah, it did happen where like I was dead and I was like looking at myself, and when I woke up I was like almost like in physical pain.
There's a very good chance you actually were experiencing a past life memory then.
Really?
If you died in a dream.
Yeah, I mean, if you died and you actually like you go out of body, you see yourself, like it sounds like it's a memory. If it feels very real to you, if you remember things like vividly and all the details, then yeah, it could actually be like a soul memory, because that was my experience with the past life memories that I had dreamed. Because I would dream these things and everything was just happening automatically, and it felt very real, very vivid. It didn't feel like weird and fuzzy like a dream. Like it was just, stuff was just happening.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I'd wake up and just like, oh, geez, what was that? And the really traumatic ones, like they were terrifying. They were absolutely terrifying, and I would physically feel pain from those experiences because it felt so real. So yeah, you could quite possibly be recalling some memories actually with some of those dreams.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Plarby?
I'd like to also interject, Dear Big Blue, stop dying. Get some help.
Stop it. Get some help.
It's a fair request.
Could you not?
Chill out, Thanos, alright?
I am inevitable.
Plarby, you got something to add to that?
Yeah, about dying in dreams, I've only died once. And it was like, so I'm in a theater, and all of a sudden everyone else is like some weird vampire, but I kind of like, they're like okay with my presence even though I'm a human. And one of them gets aggro at me for I don't remember what. So I'm just like, crash down on all fours, just like trying to get to the door real quick. And then I see one of my old cats who's been gone for a few years now. She runs up to me, or like she's like waiting there at me, and I'm like, oh hey Chi, let's go. And she jumps up and somehow snaps my neck. And I wake up, my whole head is just like ablaze with a bunch of tingling. And the first day at a time I see the cat for the day, I was like, hi, did I do something to piss you off? Because you killed me last night. I told my mom, and she's like, that is weird. Are you a murderer? And she was just like the cutest little, like the sweetest little black kitty you ever meet. But it's just like so out of nowhere. But that was just like dying in dreams. That was reminded me of the one time I died.
So wait, let me just clarify. Like, did the cat like attack you in your sleep while you were dreaming that, or did your cat just happen to be there?
She was in the dream.
Oh, okay.
Looks at me. All of a sudden jumps up, somehow is able to grab a hold of both here and twist my head enough to make me die.
Oh, that's
I'm like,
weird.
Yeah. It's just like, what the fuck?
That's so bizarre.
Your cat doesn't want you going to goth clubs. You gotta stop that.
The only time that, at least, I tried killing myself in a dream, because I was getting chased by ninjas and I couldn't fight them. Like, I could move my legs but not my arms, so I don't want to fight these ninjas. And then I would, for real, I was in an abandoned building. I knew they were okay, there weren't ninjas at first. We were in just a clear room, and I'm like, alright, I know shit's gonna go wrong here, and I know that I'm dreaming. So I don't want to be fucked with. I don't want to be scared anymore. I'm gonna just jump out of this 3rd story window, and everything's gonna be alright. So sure enough, the ninjas start coming out, and I jump out of the window, and I hit the ground, and nothing happens. And I get back up and go back to the 3rd story window like 6 times. And every time the ninjas pop out and try to murder me, and it's very scary and annoying. Alright, I don't know why I had to share that.
Your arms?
Yeah.
No, I could, but it was like dream arms. Like, I couldn't fight them. I was lucid enough to be like, I'm dreaming, so I could jump down a window head first, but I wasn't lucid enough to actually move my arms
I just had this
efficiently.
Vision of you like spinning around, so your arms just go flying while you're like trying to fight off all these ninjas.
That would have been more effective than what I had with me.
What I'm picturing is, I don't know if you guys ever see, well, Ralphie gets like thrown through the window, just like, I just imagine like a bunch of ninjas sitting there, and like just keeps jumping out the window, and they're like, should we fight him or anything? Like, this dumbass throwing himself out the window. We can't do more damage than that.
Fuck you, Dream Ninjas! I bet Shiny was the leader. If I looked closer into my dream shadows, I would have seen Shiny in a leather jacket with a cigarette, just like.
Hold on, boys. Let's see where this takes him. Let's see.
Oh, hey guys. All right, let's move on to magic, ritual, and tarot. Sarah, you're the leading expert in the entire world on tarot. Give us a little rundown of it. What goes into it, guys? We have 40 minutes left. Let's try to keep everything relatively speedy, as we do have 3.5 more topics to get through.
And I have food on the way.
Okay. So,
That's what's up.
Tarot is what I view it as is a system of archetypes being expressed on a series of cards. Tarot originally started off as just playing cards, and somehow it kind of changed and transformed into what we have now, which has a lot of occultic symbolism in it. But basically, these cards kind of represent like different sort of influences, different energies, different stages. So when you shuffle the deck, you question and you lay out the cards, it basically reflects what kind of influences are going on in your life. It could be in the present, it could be reflecting stuff in the past, and it can also predict some things in the future. A lot of people, often when they think of tarot, they think of like predicting the future. They always want to focus on that, like, you know, will I get married? Will I find love? Will I become rich? But I don't really think those are the best questions to ask, because it's like, what can you learn from those questions? You can't really learn a lot. But if you ask something like, how can I accomplish my goals? How can I avoid this potential bad outcome? Those are a lot more useful questions, because then the cards can kind of give you some insight. It's like, okay, this is what's going on. You know, this is what's blocking you from you know, getting a date. This is what's blocking you from making new friends. This is how you can achieve, you know, the goal that you want to achieve, or get that job, that dream job that you want to have. That's how you can make this particular outcome possible. So yeah, when I do tarot, I really go in depth about these kind of things, and sometimes it can bring up some underlying issues that the person might be having, and they might get a little surprised when I bring some stuff up. I don't know, sometimes when I'm reading tarot, I'll just have things just come to me, and I will just start talking about it, and then the person will just confirm it and be like, oh my god, yeah, that's actually what's going on right now. Sometimes I pick up on some spiritual stuff too, doing tarot readings for people. And I guess that's just me being like an empath and psychic as well. There was one person that was in a difficult situation, and when I was doing a reading for them, I got like I saw like a flash, and it was just like this very like angry person. Like, it was a really intense energy, and it was coming from someone in their life that basically did not have the best interests for them, and wanted to see them fail. And I had to tell them afterwards, because this was on stream. I told them off stream about it, what I had experienced. Whenever stuff like that happens while I'm on stream, I don't talk about it, just because I don't want people to get freaked out or anything like that, unless I feel it's really important to like bring it up. But yeah, if it's something I feel that should be kept off stream, then I will just message them after. But
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I've had a freaky thing happen once. Well, someone came in and was talking about like reptilians and shit, and I was like, okay, is this person a troll? But they were actually very serious, and so I was giving them some advice, and then all of a sudden I heard like a growl, like on this side, like into my ear, and it translated to me as like, shut the fuck up. Like, that's what I got, and I was just like, okay. So then afterwards I kind of cut what I was saying, like I kind of ended it, and I was just like, okay, yeah, please go see somebody that can like help you with this. Like, you clearly there was something following this person, definitely. So I advised them to see somebody that was actually able to kind of handle this kind of problem. And I was just like, yeah, you can go on your merry way. But yeah, I've learned to protect myself better and better now, so I'm much better when it comes to dealing with this kind of stuff. But yeah, that was probably the freakiest thing that happened during a tarot stream. And of course, they didn't say anything on stream, like nobody could tell. I even rewatched the VOD, and I was just like, I almost can't tell when it happened. Like I just kept a poker face, but yeah, no, I heard something, and I also felt like I snapped out of a trance. Like I didn't even know it was happening until I snapped out of it. It was pretty crazy.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that, Sarah. Do you any of you have any experience with magic or ritual? Ritual magic? Plarby? Yes, sir.
Yeah. So, why I mentioned something about Louisiana is that in I think it was November or October of this last year, I went down to Louisiana for a kindred meetup, and a kindred is just like a group of Norse pagans, and we were just pretty spread out across the United States. But it's like, hey, you know what? Let's have a thing. Let's have a shindig in Louisiana. Well, sure thing. And they live on a big plantation land, or converted plantation land, so there's like a field out there, and that's where I saw a very angry ghost that I didn't approach. But so when we got there the night of, we had a bonfire, and there was a table set out, and there's like certain ways of putting out stuff for like the gods. It's like there's a platter for Odin over here, and then there's some other stuff for some of the other gods. And I just put on this bracelet because it is it was on the table during a stage where they blessed the items, and you had them, you know, sit there overnight, or just like in the general vicinity for it to just, you know, take effect, as it were. This is more of a reassurance for me, because right now talking about all this paranormal stuff is giving me the willies, and I'm feeling something watching me that's not the streamers, and it's not the people watching at home. So I'm like, okay, this is going on because I don't feel safe. So it's kind of like a shielding for me. So there's that. But also at one point there is an optional blood offering where, you know, you like prick your hand or something and just like drop it into like a basin that's got like, they used mead because the gods love their alcohol. But one of the people there at the ceremony helping with doing the ceremony got a little excited and cut my hand open. That's what that is. So it's a nice good scar. Thankfully my
Why did you cut your hand open?
For the blood.
I didn't.
No.
I'm not one for self-harm. I wanted to do a blood offering, so they're like, hey, would you help me prick my hand? He got a little too excited and hit a bit too hard, as it were.
Okay.
So, no stitches were needed. I just scar very visibly. But yeah, thankfully we had someone who was a trained EMT on site, so she was able to patch me up pretty quick and fairly easy.
Did anything come of the ritual, though?
I felt a very strong presence of something more than us. That it was really enlightening, sort of. It's like, okay, yeah, there's definitely a higher power here. Like, what's going on, gods? Skull, drink. But yeah, it was very hard to it's hard for me to put stuff in words in general, but like it was like, okay, yeah, I think I found my niche spirituality wise. So yeah, it was a pretty cool time. Although at the end of it, everything was lovely and warm, and then at the end of the stay, whew, big rainstorm, wind and rain, whoosh, coming through. Was not happy that we were leaving.
Oh wow.
That's another reason why, like, the psychodrama of it all. There you have community, people with a lot of enthusiasm towards these beliefs. You have bloodletting. You have alcohol. I'm wondering, I know, like, in the Satanic Bible, for instance, they talk a lot about the psychodrama, making ritual a part of, like, building yourself up, the psychological impact of it. And they kind of dismiss the spiritual and or divine aspects of it, or potential aspects of it. And still, I'm kind of torn, like, how much of it is one or the other. Because I know when I'm with a group of a lot of people, like, I do feel and we have like a common goal, or we're all friends. I feel like a uplifting sort of energy. There's something greater than myself afoot. Um, how much of it is us summoning an individual conscious being into our presence? How much of it is us just enjoying one another's company? How much of it is us maybe tapping into a higher frequency through a combined effort? I don't fucking
It's
know.
all of those things.
All of those things.
Yeah, it's all of those things. Like the point of ritual is to raise energy, and you're doing it with other people. You're raising energy together for a particular cause or particular outcome. So yeah, all of those things come into play when it comes to ritual or performing magic.
So by default, would you contend that if we are like raising frequencies, that a god or ascended being is bound to come towards us, especially if invoked?
Well, if invoked, I mean, there's a possibility that it could happen. I mean, if you do things well and the deity wants to, then yeah. But I mean, raising energy doesn't necessarily have to be related to magic. I mean, for example, someone having a baby in the house, is just born like a couple days ago, that it changes the energy of the whole place because it's like, oh, we have new life here. So raising energy can happen in many different ways.
But ritual for the purpose of raising energy itself is also
Yes.
okay. All right. Do you guys have any thoughts, Magnus, Blue, Shiny, on magic and ritual? Magnus?
I mean, I'm getting married to a practicing Wiccan, so
there you go.
there is that. I mean, the actual property of magic and going ahead and ritual to go ahead and whatever you're looking for. Obviously, it has a very different for me as it does for her. Like she'll typically come visit during October, and she always gives me a hard time because that means she's not up there stemming to go ahead and properly bless her house. I've got her down in New Jersey instead. My bad. But for me, as someone who, or self-identifying as agnostic, went ahead and read and researched a lot of things that I should and should not have had access to. The actual progress of raising said energy, as you actually very well put it, it has its pros and its cons. I believe that there is an aspect of it just be self-empowerment. A lot of the Nordic, I'm sure Plarby will bounce off this one. A lot of their beliefs are using sigils of the gods, both for their protection and for self-empowerment. There was a lot of Nordic craft that was based off of that. And a lot of rune craft was based off of that. The human aspect of using runes had an effect on the runes just as much as the gods did. That's why there were certain runes that as time went on, their effects were manipulated otherwise. Think of the repurposing of certain sigils by certain groups during World War II, not even just from the side, but from general, where negative and positive aspects is associated to things, different impacts upon them. That said, when it comes to invoking, like asking for, generally raising energy positive, but if you do believe that there are other things out there, at any point in time that you go ahead and think of it like a picnic. Okay? Think of it like going out and having a middle of the park. You're going ahead and you're preparing a whole bunch of energy for yourselves, but you're going to get the attention of everything that's there. And if you believe that there's other things there, they will notice, regardless. So, are you intending to raise energy to? Possibly. Will it raise something's attention? Maybe. Not every picnic gets ants, but at the same time, not every picnic goes ahead and has a bunch of birds sitting there eating grapes out of your hands. You never know what's going to happen. You're putting that forward.
Unless you learn Sarah's protection spells. I need some. I
I
need
got my
them.
own, thank you.
Damn. All I got's a piece of pneumite. I need some skills. Swords ain't gonna work, shiny, unless they got stones in them.
So like I like what you said about how basically like when you get a ritual together, a bunch of people, like that is 100% what it felt like when I used to go to church when we were younger, like especially when we were into the Southern Baptist style. And I don't know how much you guys know about like religion stuff like that, but Southern Baptist is very big on like the yelling and like high energy. The priest is like jumping around the stage and laying hands on people and they're falling
drunk
over.
in the spirit.
Yeah.
And spreading sage all over the room.
Speaking in So like you said that it is just to raise energy, and that's what the congregation did. I mean, it was a little much, but like it was real high energy. I will tell you
Yeah.
that. So
Oh,
Snap.
we got a raid.
We do.
Raid during cat.
Welcome, Raiders. Thank you very much, CFG Gamecast. This is a very toned down version of a raid greeting from me. We are having in the middle of a panel stream right now. Thank you very much, though. I appreciate it. I hope y'all will join in on the shenanigans. I will post the rules now for the panels. Continue, Shiny Shoes, please.
So, like, as you said, that just basically, like, that whole aspect of it, raising it. And I know that you saw her in chat, Corel Chill's talking about how when she went to meet with the Lakota tribe and they did, like, a kind of like sweat lodge type thing, she was talking about basically, like, how cool that whole process was and everything, and how friends of hers definitely felt that whole process of it, and individuals coming in and out. So she can explain it way better than me, but she talked about how the excitement and everything going on with it felt really spiritual when she was there. Yeah. I don't got much on magic. I don't.
That's fair. Smitty, real quick, thank you very much, you beautiful motherfucker. You're making me all heart throbbies over here. Don't.
You will get
I'm
one
gonna,
save.
Smitty,
Hi, Smitty.
I was just about to say Smitty and CF are about to get some serious saging. Alright. I got two hands!
Saging.
I'm never eating sage the same again. Blue, did you want to throw anything in on the topic of magic, ritual, and tarot? And
Ritual, no. Tarot, I will just say that the one time I had a tarot reading, it absolutely 100% predicted something in my life that was absolutely, like, dead on. Because it said that I was going to have two kids in my life that would be like my own daughters, and when they were born, there was going to be a medical crisis, but it would all end up okay. And when my brother, my twin nieces were born, it was a very tense situation. Didn't know if they were going to survive, and I said, I need a sign right now. And I was at the vending machine. I put in for a Hershey bar, and I got 2 Hershey bars for the price of 1. I know it sounds like kind of weird, but like I took that as a sign because they were twins, and I got 2. And right after that, like a couple hours later, they said they turned for the better. Magic, I don't know. Like, there's things that I can't explain. Like when I was a kid, I was being held by my mother, and I grabbed her like religious medal in my hand, and the clasp was completely intact, and the medal came off in my hand, and the necklace was, still around her neck. Clasp was on, nothing broken, no links missing. So things like that. I mean, if you could consider that magic, then yeah, I believe in it. I think it's there.
fair enough. I'll share real quick before we move on from this. I tried a ritual one time. Well, okay, probably like 2.5 times. But the one time
Bloody
was
Mary.
it was Bloody Mary. No, that are we
Ritualistic
counting that?
masturbation doesn't
Do
count.
do we? That does. Sex magic is a thing, sir. Okay, it's
I'm not saying it wasn't sex magic. I mean, come on.
The
look.
orgasm.
Sometimes you get the sage for the sex magic.
Oh my god.
Not we, it was just I. So I'm not counting like Ouija and Bloody Mary and Candyman and shit like that, or Biggie Smalls. What I try to take like a scrying mirror, and by scrying mirror I mean my cell phone powered off, because I didn't have a fucking scrying mirror.
Jesus.
Your boy was broke. All right, I was balling. Ritualing, fun B word on a budget. All right, it wasn't the best call, but we tried it. Okay, and I set up my little table and I lit some candles and
This man.
I was meditating a bit and I forget exactly what I did. This was a few years ago now, and I had a really weird vision. Like I remember distinctly there was a school bus and then there was a knight in black armor, and I don't know if he protected the school bus or cut it down with his sword. I don't remember which he did. But he was there, and he looked badass. Alright, that's all I got for magic and ritual. Aside from this, I will say, I think that magic is real. Like I was saying before, it's probably science we don't understand yet. Smitty, beautiful fuck! Thank you. It's probably science we don't understand yet. I do think there's something to be said for our ability to collectively make shit happen as well. Things like ley lines, a universal unconscious mind are things I would definitely love to delve into on another episode. I'm gonna sage your face, Smitty. You stop it. Alright, so
Saged hard.
oh my god, I thought someone just used a sound effect. I guarantee you that was Plarby. I guarantee it was Plarby.
Saged hard.
Let's move on to... We'll bundle this all together. Telepathy, psychic abilities, telekinesis, and other means of manipulating reality. I don't know why, I always think of that example with, like, the experiments they did during the Cold War where the Russian lady was, like, moving stuff through a glass. She would move it with her mind, or so they said. And then they tried, like, remote viewing and stuff, and it spawned MK Ultra and all that fun stuff. So yeah, let's talk about that. Can we, not quite magic, I mean, I guess it can be considered magic, but can we read minds? I've heard instances of people sharing dreams before. I feel like I've been able to predict a song about to come on. I think we've all maybe been able to finish someone's sentence before. Is this light telepathy, or is it coincidence? Is it some ineffable connectivity we have? Or is there a power at play?
It's telepathy. Everyone has a somewhat telepathic abilities. Some might be stronger than others. Like I said, like we're connected with all life, and some people are just able to tap into that connection and be able to receive messages from others. Me personally, I can tell what people are thinking, probably more than they realize. I'm also very observant of like body language and things like that. So I pick up stuff from people all the time. I just kind of let it pass by or whatever. If it's something important that I take note of, I will take note of it.
Her perception bonus is really high.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yes.
Nat 20.
Exactly.
Nat 20 every time.
Exactly.
Roll it now. Right over there.
But yeah, no. Sometimes I will, and I know it'll be coming from somebody. Like I just know, like that's just like what they're thinking on, like what's on their mind. Keep in mind though, sometimes the thoughts that go through people's head though is not necessarily like them. It can actually be coming from their shadow self, which is not necessarily a complete representation of themselves. So I kind of take some things with a grain of salt, unless I really strongly feel like, okay, this is what the person is actually like thinking. But yeah, that's my opinion on telepathy and psychic abilities and stuff like that.
So that's what's up. Thank you for that. The Plarby.
Yeah, on that, if we are to kind of maybe explain it, it might be that some people like, so a lot of things have what's the word I'm looking for, like an electromagnetic
Field.
field, yes, that because
Like an aura?
yeah, kind of like an aura, but like in science terms, it's electromagnetic field. And some people are just, I guess, somehow able to tap into that and sort of manipulate it to do something, or to link up, as it were. Like going back to me and my mom, we had a shared dream. I forget what it was about, but she's like, "Wait a minute, were you doing things over here, and then some other stuff was happening over this way?" I'm like, "Yeah, and you were doing this thing." She's like, "Yeah." I was like, "Okay, well, we just shared a weird dream." So it's like some people just might just have an ability to do that. It could be science. We don't know. Scientists are baffled.
I mean, if you could control your nen, you can expand your aura. I seen it. It wasn't from anime. Don't judge
No,
me.
what? Not even a little bit.
Thank
I'll
you,
control your
Shiny.
nen.
That's
Anime.
So, I'm not telling. I am crazy into like telekinesis, like looking at that study. Like, oh man, I could watch YouTube videos of people like using telekinesis all day, or not using it, but like supposed telekinesis, like hidden camera captured footage of stuff like that. I could watch that for literal hours. But if you want to look at some real cool theory on like telepathy, psychic abilities, and interdimensional yoo-hoo and dream stuff like that, there is a show on Netflix, didn't get a lot of popularity, called the OA. I cannot recommend watching this enough, just because the theories in it will blow your mind. I'm not gonna tell you what happens because like it's wild, but
really.
there's some really good stuff in there. The first episode's like an hour and 30 minutes. Oh man, it's good, and it's really mind-opening stuff. So
Great
that's
show. Great show.
yeah.
One of my
like
friends
just
did music
a
for
theory.
season 2.
Alright.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to watch it, I
That's-
guess.
That's awesome, Magnus.
Oh, I'll have to look it up.
Yeah, Smitty is in for it, and so is Jill. I'm just saying, it's got really neat. It would fit right in with what we're talking about, but I'm not gonna spoil it for anybody. So
Oh, that is a terrible pun, Fire Bunnies.
It's called the OA.
VOA.
Yeah.
VOA.
Alright, guys. We're gonna start the chat portion. We're gonna, I guess, we'll skip over. You know what? Let's do a yes or no for everyone in the panel and everyone in chat. Firstly, if anyone would like in chat to talk about or ask questions about premonition and the nature of dreams, magic ritual and tarot, telepathy and psychic abilities, telekinesis and other means of controlling reality, feel free to talk about it in chat. We'll address specific questions and comments. Now, in the interim, while we wait for that, animals, yes or no? Do they have, in general, have a more keen awareness of the worlds beyond other
Yes.
supernatural
Yeah.
shit?
Yeah, dude. So I have that little deaf dog that she runs around the house, and like there are times where she just stops what she's doing, she looks into the distance, she gets down, and she just does like this weird little dog bark, and she just is fixated on one spot, and I'm like, what is it, girl? Am I dead? She can't hear me, so she of course not gonna answer, but like she's just looking off into the distance, and I'm like, she lost her sense of hearing, but she picked up her sense of ghosts.
But why do we presume that's a ghost thing?
My assumption is I can't see what she's looking at, but something in that direction has stopped her in her tracks of whatever she's doing and has put her on the defensive. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I think it's weird that we
It is.
are automatically like, okay, animals must see some crazy shit. Like, oh my god, it's there. But then if someone who's considered like clinically insane is like sitting there staring, a human being, mind you, is sitting there staring at a ghost or a monster, we're like, that person's insane. Why the delineation? Is that because animals can't talk? We presume we know what a healthy animal mind is like. Do we? I don't know.
Well, I mean,
I have
when
no
you look
fucking
at
clue.
like animals' actions,
Yeah.
like if there's like a forest fire or a storm coming, you know, you see the animals. They know before anyone else. They start moving the opposite direction.
That's
sense
true
it.
too.
Wrong at home.
That's a good point.
When you would go into like in the olden days, the miners would bring a cage with a parakeet in it, and as soon as the parakeet passed out, they knew that they couldn't go any further because there was
Oh.
gases that were
Oh,
like
yeah.
That's a
Canaries.
harmful to them. So
Yeah.
like
Canary.
they have an extra perceptory nature to them. Like Shiny, like my dog will literally out of nowhere just. I was saying in chat to someone, just stop, stare at what seems to be just the wall, nothing there. Like I'm looking at the wall, like I'm looking in the general direction of the wall, nothing's there, but he's just fixated on it. Tail drops down, and I'm like, okay, well, if you need me, I'm gonna be like 3 rooms away. You do you.
And
Like,
sound.
and I think you had a good point about those stuff where you're saying like, is it because we understand animal behavior? It is really easy to be very predictive. Like what I know what the dog's gonna do most of the time. Like I can see the dog. I'm like, hey, you want some food? And they're like, yeah, I want some food also. But for them to just like do something so out of character for them, and it to be towards like in an aggressive nature, that is what sets off alarms for most people.
Does that make it the correct means of going about it? Like, aggressive violence is insane, staring at the wall, maybe there's ghosts, not insane for animals.
I don't know.
Fair
I
enough.
don't know. But they're, like I said, it is very uncharacteristic of them to stop, then just look at nothing and then
yeah.
aggress towards that instead of them just doing what they normally do and, I don't know, look for food, lay on the couch.
You were talking about them combined. Okay, I hear
Yes.
you.
Especially if you offer a treat towards a dog who's like normally all about food when this
Oh,
is
yeah.
going on,
And
and
they're
they
just-
don't react. Like they just want nothing. They're just fixated. They don't hear you. They don't want to look at you. They're like locked in on whatever's in front of them.
Yeah.
Magnus?
That
Oh.
completely.
Yeah, the
beats
basically
their
literally
behavior.
just like, hold on.
How many people just talked? What? What?
There were 8 voices that came out.
Oh my god. Magnus! You
Yeah.
were about... Well, Blue, are you finished?
Yeah.
Okay. Magnus, you were
I
about
was
to
going
say
to compound on
something.
your question of
Okay.
the whole thing with that. And I was going to give you an example from film where they kind of play off the entire notion. So it's been shown that when people go to these places that are considered to be haunted and been signs of something that people just can't comprehend yet, animals do seem to have this distinct, like, because you could talk to a dog and you have no idea what it's comprehending. However, they've brought dogs to places that are considered haunted and they book it. They're out of there. They will not listen to the owner, who legitimately, like every other time you see them at the house, they'll respond to every command. But they won't do so in what seems to be a paranormal sense. They played that up in a couple films that a lot of people love. If you watch the original Terminator, that was an entire premise around it. the animals knew things that were off. So all these survivors in the future would keep dogs around because that would let them know when a Terminator was showing.
Oh shit.
It was just they always had them at the camp. It wasn't right, and it wasn't human. It was an entire like sub. They didn't do much of the horse stuff, but it was a thing.
Magnus, yes you are.
Of course I'm cutting out. Why wouldn't I be?
Is your cat barking at your microphone?
I don't know. He's in Canada.
God
Or
damn.
is he?
That's what I'm saying.
But the whole point is that it's been shown in various tests that people have done when things seem off, animals have a very distinct fight or flight reaction to it, and it seems to supersede their normal behavior. They trust their instincts just that extra emphasis more. And all I was saying was that for animals, it seems that that's the case. The reason people trust in that being some sort of paranormal experience is because they don't have anything else to explain with it, and that it has been used and exploited in film based on our perception of that being the case.
Thank you, Magnus. I do want to get to some chat questions here. Just Daunter asked, do you feel entities can influence your dreams? If so, why? Like, why do they do it, or why do I feel that they can do it?
Because they're
I'd say that's an easy yes. Guys, please keep your answers brief. We have till about 10:10 to not only do chat questions, but to close everything out.
Speaking of animals.
Sarah, you got your hand up. You want to address that
Yeah.
one?
Regarding that question, yes, entities can definitely influence your dreams, and as to why, usually it's to feed off of your energy.
Ooh.
So they'll try to put you in a situation where you're feeling scared, or you're feeling angry, or you're feeling sad. They feed off of that energy.
Are these psychic vampires?
Not necessarily. It could even be ghosts. It could be evil spirits like demons and stuff like that. They will like influence your dreams away to get you to release those kind of emotions so that they can feed off of it. They feed off of fear. They feed off of anger and sadness. So I've learned to be very neutral in dreams, like not even get angry or scared. I just stay completely neutral. Because then they can't feed off of anything if you're keeping yourself to.
Wow.
So that would be my suggestion, is kind of learn to not so quick to react.
Do any feed off of happy Jews?
No, not really. I don't. No.
Fair enough.
Did it also freak anybody else out when he said happy?
Yeah.
I don't want to know what's going to
I
happen.
didn't like it. I did not like it.
Maybe a sage dream. I don't know.
Well, if it's that kind of thing, I mean, yeah, there are
This
feed off of that. Just letting you know.
That's
so.
the ultimate question I had here. How do we summon a succubus? That's all we want to really know.
Listen.
That's
I'm
why we're here.
Sure 3 of those live in Slurp's house, like just with him all the time.
We got 3 succubuses and a pound of sage. Everything's gonna be fine.
You don't want a succubus.
Look,
They'll drain your energy.
the succubus don't want me. They don't want none of this.
You don't want to suck your bus, okay?
Exactly. Smitty probably has the most offensive question I've ever seen in my life in any
I'm already
Soulspeak
offended. I don't
episode.
even know what it is yet.
Thank you, Plarby. Did any of you guys watch The Leftovers? Ew. You know what, Smitty? I'm fighting you now.
Leftovers.
Look, I tried liking The Leftovers. I tried watching it. It was just so fucking melodramatic and depressing all the time. Like, shut up, Leftovers! Shut up! I gave you like a whole season's worth of trying.
I don't even know.
Sarah,
I'm
just
not-
leave it alone, okay? You don't want it in your
I heard
life.
the second season was way better, but I still haven't.
You
seen
watched the Oh, okay, you heard it was way better. Maybe
Yeah.
I'll have
But
to
hey,
give...
Castlevania 3. So Castlevania 3 was pretty solid.
That's what's
Yes.
That's true. That's true.
Yes.
up.
About the ghost things. I've maybe had Maybe they all also try to communicate in some way instead of feeding off of you. Just an alternative reason-ish.
Yeah, it could be that
believe
too.
that.
I definitely agree. Definitely agree with that.
Yeah.
All
That's my
right.
dese. Uh-oh.
It looks like we're caught up. Guys, if I missed something, let me know. Do you guys see anything in chat? Questions or comments of import?
Does anyone
Does
have a
anyone have a
story
story
of a lucid dream that they remember?
Someone asked if anyone on the panel had lucid dreams before.
Yeah, the dream where I was You know what? All right.
Ninjas?
Aside
You
from
controlled it?
ninja, yes, but not my arms. I controlled everything but my arms. And this is another one, a half lucid dream, where I found out I was dreaming. And usually, if I'm having a lucid dream, mind you, I've had maybe like 7 I could kind of remember throughout my life, 7 lucid dreams, and I always want to fly in them. So this one, I knew I was dreaming, and I'm like, okay, cool, I'm gonna fly now. So I jump up in the air, but instead of darting up, I go like 3 feet, and then I go into paper airplane mode, where my whole body's just like at the mercy of the wind, and I'm like sliding down the street with the occasional pop-up if the breeze likes me. It was the worst thing. Why was I a paper airplane? I knew I was dreaming. Just let me fly and control my shit.
I want to get my degree because I just want to just a week of studying your brain. Fascinating
I know for a fact the ninjas were there, and they were just
They
watching.
were not there. They probably were, Shiny. You're probably right. I'm so mad right now. My legs folded behind my back. I was like arch sliding down the road.
Like a transformer?
Kind of like a halfway transformer.
Slurpabots, roll out.
Oh my God. What does that mean, guys? What does that dream mean? Tell me when I just want to fly, but I'm a
You're a
paper.
total dork.
air-
We love you for it.
Yeah.
You need to hydrate.
Please beat your DLC already.
Yeah.
Only I,
Another 3 months of that.
only I can have a half lucid dream. You
I've never actually had a lucid dream.
Oh, really?
Really?
Yeah, I've never been able to get one.
Yeah.
A trick that I kind of developed when I was a kid is I'd always remind myself to check my hand whenever I'd start dreaming. I try to remind myself, like, to check your hand. So I would check my hand, and then I would say something weird, and then I would remember, oh, hey, I'm dreaming, and then I could go lucid.
Is it finger
But now-
through the hand?
No, I just look at my hand.
Oh.
I just,
Oh yeah, it's a
And-
dream.
yeah.
How does that work?
I lucid dream whenever I want.
Because whenever you look at your hand, like, you see something weird, like something will look a bit off or like unfamiliar, and then it like reminds you like you're actually in a dream right now. You're like, oh, and then you can go lucid.
I might try that tonight.
See,
Try like thinking of what you
I-
dream of.
I've
So
heard
it
stuff
actually
like
falls
that, but I don't see how it would work, because like, wouldn't you need the mental wherewithal to actually look at your hand in the first place, as opposed to just being like an
That's
observer
why
of
it
your
takes
dream?
practice.
Fair
You
enough.
have to remind yourself every night, and then hopefully when you dream, be like, oh, hey, I need to check my hand, and then you'll be like, oh, hey, this is weird. Oh, right, I'm in a dream, and then you can go lucid.
I know this city like the back of my head. Oh, man, that's new.
Oh no.
I had a recurring nightmare that literally like scared the crap out of me like constantly, and the only way I could like get it behind me was I had to start lucid dreaming myself in that nightmare so I could take control of what was happening and like make it go the way I wanted it to go. So like every night I would just think of, okay, I want to dream this, and I want this to happen in that dream. And it would just, eventually I started to actually get in the dream, and like I would know I was there, and then I would actually have the action taken that I needed to have happen.
Well, if it isn't Mr. Working Arms and Legs.
Be jealous.
Must be nice to not have to be a
Must
half
be
paper.
fucking nice.
Yeah.
Guys, Thank you all so much. We're gonna start with outros now. Y'all's is awesome. We're gonna start with your name, your biggest takeaway, and an overview of where to find you and what you do. And for those of you wondering, this is the panel. We're gonna start with Sarah because she is on our top left.
All right. So yeah, I'm SarahObscura. I want to thank Slurp for inviting me to be part of this panel. This is really fucking cool. It was really, really, really awesome to hear everybody's experiences and beliefs. This was just really awesome. It was really cool exchanging information with all of you and just sharing what we've the things that we've experienced. And where can you find me? Well, you can find me on Twitch, of course. I'm also on Instagram, and I've also have a YouTube channel. I've started doing tarot videos on my YouTube, specifically for YouTube. It's like a pick a card video. So I have different piles of cards, and you pick the one that you feel is calling to you, and you listen to the reading for that. So the newest one that I have up is for the month of March, and I know March is kind of halfway done, but who knows? Maybe there's some messages that you need to hear, so you can check it out and listen to the reading that you choose. But yeah, I'm a professional makeup artist and alternative model, so I also do some cool and creative photo shoots as well. You'll see that on my Instagram, and of course, follow me on Twitter, because I post all my thoughts and stuff on there and stream updates. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Blue, you are next, my friend.
Hey guys, I'm BigBlueD. I'm a variety streamer. I tend to stream a lot of story-based single-player games. Tonight was absolutely awesome because, just got a lot of shared experiences and a lot of like different ones as well. That I learned some cool things. Like apparently there's actually like shadow people, which this is the first I've like heard of or experienced this. And familiars, I don't think I've ever heard that term before, so I gotta start looking into that now. You can find me on Twitter at BigBlueD79. That's really I have an Instagram, but I'm barely on it. So, and you can find me on Twitch at twitch.tv/BigBlueD.
Thank you very much, Blue. Plarby, you are next, my friend.
All right. I have been Plarby, and
All right.
the big takeaway of this is that, especially, I didn't know that. Sarah was saying that, like, Buddhists were, so in like folks over in where you say Taiwan.
Yeah.
Folks over there are a lot more in tune with this kind of stuff than folks over here in America. And here I thought Portlanders were the weird ones. No, but
They
it was really cool to figure. It was really cool to
Look.
find out that, like, there's a lot more to experience out there. So if you think you've experienced it all, you haven't. And you can find me at almost everything. Plarby. Plarby.
Respect.
YouTube, Twitter, this place. I do have an Instagram, but I like BigBlueD. I'm rarely ever on it. That one. I think that one's Dr. Plarby. I don't know why Doctor. I think someone took Plarby already. Anyway, but yeah. So most social medias, I'm Plarby.
Thank you very much, Plarby.
Thank you for
Magnus,
having me.
my pleasure.
Hello, everyone. Again, as always, I am Magnus Mark 1, MagnusMKI, for those who want to go ahead and read it out phonetically. Gothic and horror content. My big takeaway is exactly overlap there is to more nuanced bits of various different perspectives, religions, so on and so forth. Because there's a lot of little things, even reading tomes that I could find myself back mid-2000s. Never realized how much of an overlap there was beyond just the general message of be good to each other, stop dicks.
That cutout was.
Perfect. Perfect. Great. Wonderful. Thank you, microphone. I'm going to stop talking about the paranormal. Can you function like every other stream and thing I've done for the last year and a half of having you? That'd be great. But yeah, no, it's been fantastic being here and having this discussion. Bye.
Oh, thank you, Magnus. I think, Shiny Shoes.
All right. Tonight my takeaway: Magnus's mic is haunted, so we've got that going for us.
Gotta get your sage, Magnus.
Yeah, not.
I got him.
Not Slurp Sage.
I got him on the
No,
sage
not
over
that
here.
one.
We
Yeah.
got
Let's
him.
test it.
I like it.
So, real taco, my takeaway from it, I really enjoyed hearing everybody speak about the thing, because it's not too often that you get to talk into kind of paranormal type things with people, because usually if I talk to that to people I work with, they would think I'm literally crazy. They would, no, the devil. But it was really good to kind of have a full, just kind of sit down and discuss that kind of stuff. You can find me at Shiny Shoe everywhere. YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Facebook, wherever there's a Shiny Shoe, that's me. Follow me on Twitter if you want to get a hold of me. If not, I'm also in Discord. If you ever have any questions or need anything from me, just let me know. Message me on Twitch even. I don't care. Find it eventually. So, that's about it.
Thank you very much, Shiny Shoes. All right, I'll let you all go now. I'll give my closure at the end.
One more thing.
Oh,
Sorry.
Sarah, go for it.
I'm just gonna post my link tree in the chat because unfortunately my username is not the same across all platforms.
Oh, go for it.
So, right there in the chat, that's my link tree. So
Guys,
I have a link to all my different social medias.
If I find out everyone in this chat's not following her, you're getting slapped with the sage.
Already followed.
Double-handed slap
Now
with
I'm
the
gonna
sage.
unfollow.
Thank
I'm already
you.
following her, I'm pretty sure. So.
Well, I guess
I don't follow Sarah. Not at all.
No,
Ah.
definitely not.
I will say before you guys go, thank you all very much for coming on. Once again, I underestimated how much subject matter there was to cover. I appreciate all your patience. Once again,
That
Sarah.
seems to be your ritual for
That's
Soulspeak.
that's not true. I've been making solid improvements. We've been doing really good with time compared
like
to the
3 more
past few
ghost
times.
stories.
Yeah, that's another thing. For Paranormal Proclivity 2, there has to be. We brought up shit like astral projection, the ley lines, familiars. I didn't like.
Oh, that's a good one.
That seemed like kind of a background one to me. But it could be at the forefront for our journeys as witches and warlocks. But yeah, you guys have given me a lot to consider here. I appreciate y'all taking the time out to share your expertise, your stories, your thoughts and whatnot. I loves y'all. You have a good night, and we're gonna get all this shit up on YouTube with all your links too. But feel free to post them in chat also if you haven't
We
already.
should do a cryptids one too.
If what?
We should do a cryptids one too.
Paranormal.
Cryptids,
What's cryptids?
like
Bigfoot.
Jersey Devil.
Oh, like
Yeah,
cryptozoology.
Cryptozoology.
Okay.
And paranormal geography. That shit is awesome.
That
Next time I need to tell-
Atlantis.
I need to
Alright.
tell you my Mothman story.
we gotta talk about it. All right. If y'all would join me for the raid, that would be awesome. If not, all good too. You've been with me for almost 4 hours now. Have yourselves a good evening, and I'll talk to y'all soon. I'm ending the goddamn call. Woo.
Oh, you.
Woo. Okay, we did it, everybody. We got him out of here. Oh my god, finally, I got rid of those guys. They didn't know what they was talking about. I'm the only one who knows anything about ghosts over here. Don't tell anybody, though. Don't tell them I said that, especially Magnus. He will beat me up.